Happy New Year!
Hello, hello, hello.
Happy 2023, everybody. Are we ready to party?
It's going to be one hell of a year.
Welcome once again to Worcester City Council Theater 3000, everybody. I am joined as always by Bill Shaner and Brendan Melican. Guys, what do you think? What's Gary Rosen going to be by the end of this year?
Oh, he's going to be a city councilor at large back again.
And
on the strength of his senior center support.
Is it true that he got sponsored by Nike as part of their new pickleball sportswear campaign? I'm not sure if it's illegal, but
he has to wear gym shorts to every city council meeting. No, that's the only that was their demand.
Wow.
Guys, it's great to see you guys again. I hope you guys had great holidays.
Yeah, mine was great. Yeah, excited to get back into the foolishness of Worcester politics.
Yes.
Bill,
you got a show tonight, so you're not going to be here forever. You're just with us for a little bit. But so
I'll be here till about 7.
So let's talk about anything that you foresee coming up in the near future. I don't know if there's anything that jumped out to you today. I know that they're going to executive session at some point during this meeting, supposedly, right?
Yeah, they are going to executive session for this thing that I barely understand with Holden. They're like having some argument over water rights or use of the reservoir or something with Holden.
Oh, yeah. So we own a bunch of Holden that we just don't talk about this at all. But it's like there's water in Leicester and Paxton and Holden that we own the water and we just let them to say that's part of Holden. Water's weird, man. A lot of blood spilled over water.
It's true.
Yeah, it's weird. It's it's actually it's in Superior Court. It's like a serious thing. It's been going on for years, as far as I can tell. But no one to my memory has written about it, at least in recent memory. So yeah, they're having a huge dispute with Dickhurst from Holden.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the agenda is Donna Colorio's order. I think it's 11A, but I left my notes at home, where she wants the city to talk about their evacuation plan. And it's very, very obvious that the only reason why she put that on the agenda is because she just watched White Noise on Netflix. And there's no other, I would bet $1 million that that's the only reason why she put that on the agenda. She was like, wow, what if there's an airborne toxic event in Worcester? How are we going to get the people out of here? So it's gonna be fun to hear her talk about that. Kate Toomey
she has an evil plan.
Yeah, she's the airborne toxic event, actually. It's the hairspray. It's the hairspray, actually. Yeah. The hairborne toxic event.
We have firefighter Frank Stankus to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
What is Frank Stankus? What is that? What's Frank Stankus?
I'm looking at it from Mike Benedetti's preview. But snowplow conflict of interest waivers. Some city employees want to plow snow for the city as contract workers. They unsurprisingly need the council to approve this. This week, firefighter Frank Stankus has waived request before the council.
Frank Stankus, what a legendary name.
I went to middle school with Frank Stankus.
Did you really?
Yeah. Let me just tell you, props to him for not changing his name because he took some grief for it. I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's a real boy named Sue situation.
Yeah.
A boy named Stank.
A lot of Frank Stinkus, a lot of Stinky Frankie. People were unkind to him. I was nice to him. I'm a nice boy, but other people, and so. Good for him. Thank you for your service. Let him plow, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not gonna look at his Facebook. I don't want to know how much I would hate him now. But yeah, that's a legendary name. Truly a legendary name.
Yeah.
In Worcester.
It's really that is probably the most interesting thing on the agenda tonight. It's a very light agenda. There's really not a whole lot interesting there. There's a report on the Lake Ave sewer overflow that's 84 pages long, and just I didn't really see anything new in there. I mean, we kind of knew what happened. But yeah, so they're gonna probably hem and haw about how to not continually dump poop water into our nearby water bodies, which
Hi, Yenni.
is
Hello.
what's up, Yenni? How are you?
Doing all right.
We're
Good.
talking about the poop thing as always. You don't need to guess that. Everybody knows that's what we're always talking about.
Yeah.
Which
Brian, what was that shirt idea you threw in the chat earlier?
Oh,
was-
we may have an announcement about that later.
Working it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah,
I
let's not let's wait on that then.
Like
but
Lake Quinsig, I'm gonna let that simmer for a little bit.
cool.
that's your
I mean, we
problem.
could do a little bit of this. Hold on, uploading.
All right, well, we got a little something. Yeah, there's
That's
something in the water in Worcester. Doo-doo.
That's awesome. 2022 was really a remarkable year for doo-doo in the water.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
There was like 10 or 11 incidents of sewer overflows into the water. Yeah, it's crazy. It was like there was a
8 emails. Yeah.
there was a run there for a while where it was like, damn, every week
Wow.
there's more poop coming in the
They're
water.
shitting everywhere. Incredible.
Yeah.
The Russell's,
You know, a lot of Dunkin' Donuts in the city.
George Russell's item about in-law apartments, I think, is one of the more interesting things to come on to. That seems to be the best the city can come up with for an actual housing plan, which is kind of gross in a way. But I was actually at an inspection for a property last week where the building inspector was going to get lunch and then the rest of the afternoon was going to shut down illegal apartments in single-family houses, which is it's one of those things that, like, I know it sounds great to everybody. Is like, oh, why not do that? Because then fires happen and people die, and then you're going to complain that why didn't the city do something about that? It's a weird thing for him to bring up, but
Interesting.
Yeah, I kind of like read that, but I didn't really process what it was.
it's the
'cause
idea
it
that,
just-
like, you know, you could build out a small apartment in your basement and call it an apartment, but like people already do that all the time. They just do it illegally, and you
Yeah.
typically don't have the 2 egresses that you would normally have for an apartment, and it's kind of weird having people living next to utilities and whatnot where people weren't meant to be living.
Yeah. Another thing that I thought was kind of interesting was Candy's order, the last one of the bunch, about Gage Street. That's the building that burnt down. That was the fatal fire last year, and I don't really know what she's driving at, but I'm sure she'll explain.
Yeah,
what she's thinking about
she'll
with that. So
monologue
that's
it.
kind of interesting. Yeah, I mean that is in her district.
No, this is important to bring up as well. We did miss this by a day from our last stream. The mayor, I think we can all agree, he's an untrustworthy liar and misrepresented himself to us and the whole city. And now everything that he ever says for the rest of his career should be painted with that brush. Yeah. It's doo-doo and Mayor Petty's lies. Yeah, I mean, I think it's I think he doesn't know what else to do, probably.
Yeah,
what else?
right.
What is he gonna do?
I don't even know if he means it. Like, if he's going to run or not. I don't think.
I really do. So I don't know. I think that he's trying to stave off Maureen Bonenda.
Right.
Trying to
Yeah, I've heard
head her
that.
off at the pass. I think that's a pretty safe assumption to make. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe he sees it through. Maybe he doesn't. But feels like that's what's happening. Is that a lot of
Right.
people saw her gearing up and were hoping that she would get scared off. I mean, it really it tumbles down the mayor race hugely. I don't know. What do you guys think about? I know this is not ever going to happen. This never does happen. But what do you think about somebody else just still running for mayor to make sure that we don't get Donna as deputy?
I think that'd be a smart move, and I'd like to see it. But
Yeah.
it's just generally not the. I don't know what really is preventing people from doing that.
There is a potential person that's thinking about that.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
I had not heard
I'm
that. That's
able
great.
to say more than that.
Yeah,
but,
we can keep that. We can keep their secret for a while.
but as you were talking about petty, Ms. Bork over here.
Oh
See?
yeah, right.
For a reason.
Lying dog. She knows.
I think it's
She
time
knows.
Joe just opens up a joke shop. I feel like that's the thing that he needs to explore is like Pee Wee Herman style, like Pee Wee's Big Adventure, like
Petties. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
an old school joke shop, and he's just going to sell hand buzzers and whoopee cushions and
Just
whatnot.
call it joke petty. I think.
Joe Petty's Emporium of whimsy. Yeah. He's always saying Joe Petty's Emporium of whimsy. Come on down. I got whoopee cushions.
I was doing the same thing. I think they're gone. Yeah, those
Joe Petty
sold out
pre-rolls?
quick. Yeah, those
Joe
sold out
smoked
quick.
all the pre-rolls.
Smoked them up.
He
Look at
told
Joe
me
Petty pre-rolls.
he told me that he didn't try one, but he was glad that I did.
He didn't inhale, but he.
Just telling you what the man told me.
What I want is cannagars.
Canagars with the tobacco.
Cannabis cigars.
Oh, blunts?
So
A blunt?
no, it's way more than a blunt. So it's wrapped around a tube that ends up getting pulled out, where the bud is finally packed around it, then coated in rosin, then rolled in keef, then rolled in cannabis leaves, then rolled again in resin, then rolled back in keef. And
Dang.
it's packed so tightly that it burns for 5 to 6 hours.
Whoa. That's crazy.
I'm going to be honest,
In
like
California.
I'm pretty sure, like just look with the heads that are on here. Like I'm not going to speak for the audience because I have no idea who's in there. Like I've done some shit with my body that I think I could probably make you all blush. Like going back to like 1992, like when drugs were actually clean. Like I can. You're shaking your head no. Like I'm telling you, we'll sit down someday. I'll make you fucking blush.
Oh no, more along the lines of me? No.
Yeah.
I am not.
The thing
I've
is though,
always
like
been curious
when I
about,
hear
like,
shit
the
like
effect
that,
of various drugs, but never
oh.
decided to do any of them.
I say like the cannabis, like I've got a friend who just ate, like he made the mistake of eating an entire bag of like Nerds rope and whatnot. And now he needs so much weed just to get high again. It's not even fun. And like, as an old person who's like reformed themselves, like I just love the idea of like, I can get high off of anything now. I wouldn't even know what to do if someone handed me a whippet, like a whippet balloon, like nitrous, my head would just explode. But I love that idea that I could just look at cocaine and get high. And I see what these kids are doing today. And it's like, man, you just ruin yourself. You're going to have to go dry for so long to get back to the point where you enjoy it again.
Yeah, ask Brendan about the time he boofed embalming fluid back in '85. I think.
I have
For a heavy D
an
show.
ex of a friend of mine who was literally doing like giant scoops of dabs.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it just wasn't affecting him.
When they first opened up, I was down at what is it on Water Street there? The Nada. Yeah, I was down there. Just they had an open house. I had never done dabs before, and some really nice, fine gentleman like showed up and like, "Hey, you want to do a dab?" So yeah, he pulls out his dab rig, and I just took like the biggest hit I could.
You mean Summit then? The lounge?
Yeah, Summit Lounge. I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Okay.
Yeah, the casual smoking place, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I was out of my gourd. And then like I just had to stand up and just leave. And I walked out into the street. And of course, there's two cops standing there just keeping an eye on whiskey and water. So then I got paranoid. And then I just started like fast walking, running to the parking garage that I wasn't even parked in just so I could hide. Grown ass man. Like, why anyone would do that to themselves? It's just beyond me.
No, the devs are too much. And it looks like a goddamn science experiment.
Yeah.
Butane torch. That's just intense.
It feels like doing crack.
It's real drugs. Yeah. It's real
You're
drugs.
definitely with a controlled substance.
Yeah.
When you're doing it.
Yeah.
Something interesting I heard today was the spot over by Greater Good that was going to open up Harvest. Because the price of cannabis has dropped as much as it has, they're basically not going to open. So they built out a whole dispensary and it's not going to open. I got to follow up on it.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah. It's a nice big area. Now I'm like, what are you guys asking for rent over there?
Yeah, let's get in there and sell like I don't know, embalming fluid or something.
Out my ass. Yeah.
Don't be uncouth. Say boofing. It's funny.
Yeah.
It is funnier.
Joe Petty's Boofing Emporium. We've got all the suppositories and straws you need.
All the boofs and goofs you could want.
Joe Petty's Boofs and Goofs Emporium.
For all your boof and boofing needs.
Yeah, I'm just new boofing. Yeah.
That's going on the list.
Yeah. Come on down. We're gonna boof. We're gonna boof. We're gonna goof. We're gonna boof.
A vote for Petty is a vote for new boot boof.
New boof.
What do we think will happen in D4?
I've heard that there's someone being groomed, like a child,
Yeah.
like a child at a drag story hour at a library. There's someone being groomed to run for D4.
It is actually a child at a drag story hour. That is
Yeah.
Future, our children in the
Welcome
future.
to the Worcester
Yeah.
City
The
Council.
Nazis are not gonna like
I
it.
would ask that you please stand
We
for
also
the
need
allegiance if you can, and start spelling
D1
it
to announce. There's one person that announced, John Snyder. He's a realtor.
Oh yeah, John Snyder Keys.
Yep.
He posts little songs on Instagram.
Yep.
He's
Cool.
out. No, he's out.
Nope,
I knew
wrong.
him from he was one of my supporters during my campaign, and I knew him from like Yang Gang days. So it's
Yeah.
an interesting choice for him.
Yeah, let's see what's for D1. Well,
Yeah, D1.
I thought D1 would have been pretty shaped up already, but we'll see.
I think folks just haven't announced yet.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, so the schedule for the election is on the agenda tonight, and you can't even take out papers till April,
Mhm.
and that seems a little late to me from my
Yeah.
memory.
It's usually February.
Is there
Yeah.
a paper shortage?
I guess, yeah, I don't know. I guess so. I emailed AJ Pottle in the clerk's office, just like asking before that came out, like when they're going to be starting the paper process, and he said he didn't know because there's some sort of state thing that they're waiting on. I don't know, walkery, but yeah, it's kind of late. So you can take them out in April and they have to be back by May 30th. Yeah, so it's
If a week and a half to get them filled in. Good luck, kids.
we got a lot of time for people to bluff that they're running and then back out, because if people are already announcing now and we can't even take out nomination papers till April, then,
Just in time for Joe Petty to start his GoFundMe for his Boofs and Goofs Emporium.
There he is.
Did nobody tell Fred Nathan there's a meeting tonight?
I don't know.
we got no Fred.
Saw him at wrestling
Councilor GA.
Here.
Councilor
last
King.
week.
Here. Councilor
He
Carlson.
walked,
Councilor Yen.
Sorry.
Here.
Councilor
he
Rivera.
walked up to my brother and said, "Did I
Rose?
talk to you
Yeah.
on Main Street
Councilor
earlier?"
Russell.
My brother was like,
Yeah.
"No," and he
I'm
just
gonna
stood there and like, stared at him for a while.
Yeah,
I also
the
saw him
approval
taking
of the
pictures
minutes,
of random people a few weeks
December
ago.
13th.
That's great.
Councilor Bergman. Yes. Councilor Calorio.
He's investigating
GA.
Antifa.
Yes.
Councilor King.
Yeah.
Yes. Councilor Carlson.
Kate,
Councilor
Kate
Yen.
has COVID.
Yes.
Councilor Rivera.
I'm calling it.
Yes.
Councilor Rose. Yes.
Restarting this now just to try to get closed captioning.
Well,
What's going on with this freaking city?
Yeah.
Got it.
Did you guys see Ray Mariano's column
Yes.
trying to attack two for
Your residence in item
going to meetings virtually instead of in person? Like, that's the problem on the Worcester City Council. That's pretty cool.
Hi, my name is Adam Silker, and I live here in Worcester, and I'll be speaking on.
Ray Mariano's such a fucking dickhead.
Yeah, I'm halfway through a column about how much of a dickhead he
And
is.
also on 17, the F and G.
did anyone see that
These all
back
have
and
to
forth
do
on
with
social
the
where
city
like someone was
bus
pointing
system,
out that
with the WRTA. And
Ray
and
has a
I'll
lot to
start off
complain
with the
about.
second two
A
items.
city that no
Now,
longer
I had
has
a
two porn
handout
theaters
that
within
goes
walking
to
distance of City
all the
Hall and a
councils
giant
and
empty
city
shopping
clerks.
mall. They're like,
And what
this
this
motherfucker
shows
just like
is
ran
that
a city that
between September
was basically
26th
Sarajevo.
and
And here he is
December 2nd,
complaining about it
there have been
now.
240 separate
Back in my
times
day,
when a bus line
city councilors
has been
got
suspended for
coffee
lack of
together
drivers.
at the
Now,
porn
this is
theater.
being done at the last minute, so that if you're riding on a bus and you go out somewhere, you have no idea when you're going to be returning, or if there will even be a bus to take you back in some cases. And the 248 incidents are not the number of times that there has been a bus line suspended, because each time this happens, there are multiple bus lines which are having their schedules monkeyed with
Yeah,
in this way.
Main South Mall. I'm not
And
sure
so
what's
we
going
have
on
here
with their,
basically is a
if it's a
system in
Facebook
chaos.
problem
We
or
have a
what,
system
but
which
the
no longer
captions are
meets any
not great.
definition.
Travis
of
is going to
schedule,
just start
months
typing
which
them out by hand.
has to follow. And
We don't want that.
In reference to Councillor
Yeah, we do.
King's order of 17G, it's
You
very
think the
important
closed
that we
captions get
start
bad.
working to create some transparency and some real responsibility in the WRTA, and go into a state delegation and talking to them about this would be a good way to do it. Now, second of all is
The first round of
actually,
layoffs at
Mayor
Meadow
Eddy's
was the
order.
closed captioning team.
And so that is to request that the city council work with the WRTA administrator to present to city council in person a comprehensive report.
It could also be this
showing
guy's
exactly what's
voice
going on
that
there.
it's not picking up.
And so I would
This
hope that
gentleman
this
has
would
a lower
also be
tone.
able to address the fact
I
that
think
the
it's just-
WRTA apparently still has $20 million
It could be, but
on hand.
Facebook's been having trouble with
federal
captioning
funds.
even on like regular uploaded
The
videos.
last two
So
orders,
I don't know.
or the first
It
two
may just be a
orders-
Facebook issue
I'm
tonight.
sorry, this is taking so long.
Unfortunately, there's
Have to
not.
do
We've tried
with,
better
Yeah,
ways
a
to
few more
watch to
seconds.
I've
dial
got a
into the
few more
meeting, and
seconds.
nothing else works.
then-
I'd love to. I wish they had a better system.
The
for
traffic
watching, but-
signal priority system is a way that our emergency vehicles move through the city. This can easily be used by the buses. They all have the hardware on board. All it's going to take is an order from the city council and a few tweaks of the software to make sure the buses can pass through the intersections in a more orderly sort of a way than they're doing now. And second of all, the bus lanes need to be studied. There have been many cases recently in Massachusetts where a temporary bus lane has been put in and has been popular enough so that it is now a permanent bus lane. And all of
The
these
issue is
things
our
will make the
streets are
buses
too
run
narrow
more
for that.
smoothly. Maybe we could even get an extra run in
In a lot of
every
places.
hour on
Not
some
the whole
routes.
city,
And thank
The
you very
buses
much.
pull over
Definitely
right on
like
people's
Park Ave
lawns.
is fine, but
What's your name, city residence, item number?
Idella Hazard, City of Worcester. I would like to say that having separate lanes for buses makes sense, but I'm thinking school buses. So
Why is
that
Mo
they don't
lurking over
fight
there?
Traffic until they're ready.
Yeah, what is he doing over there?
um,
He has a seat.
Allow children to get on the bus and to get off the bus.
That's not his seat.
He doesn't feel right
because
sitting
they
there with
tie up
Kathleen
traffic.
gone.
And also,
oh,
would be,
stand him out.
to have
I had to. I saw what was
Oh
happening.
man.
shelters for-
Ba, 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 da, 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 da.
I still think
Friendly neighborhood camera person.
the
Can you
hotel
get
on
him back
Lincoln
in the
Street
frame so we can clip
should
him rolling his
house-
eyes at the public?
the 99 homeless.
Just
because
pan over
that
to him
is An
permanently.
emergency. And I
Yeah.
don't understand why anyone could think that we should leave it empty and wait for some kind of catastrophe. We don't have those very often in Worcester. And to leave a building vacant doesn't make sense. And when we do have a catastrophe, the Red Cross comes to the aid of people and houses them for us in rooms in hotels.
But
We
not
just
always, because
did
that didn't help
a
into the Mill Street budget.
transfer from one shelter to another
Because
shelter
it was
for
negligence, not a
60 people
disaster.
that are homeless. But we made it in the newspaper, they made it sound like it was an addition. It was not. We need to get the homeless off the street and into permanent housing. That is something that we need to
Her
get
hair
the
kind of looks
Health
like
and
the
Human Services
weird things that British
and the
Parliament
city
members
of
wear
Worcester
today.
to do for our homeless people.
a
And then
retired
if
judge.
there is an emergency situation, then we address that. Instead
They're
of
called a
leaving
wig, Bill.
an empty building and
Oh,
leaving
yeah.
all these homeless people out there and ignoring them. And it says, have a meeting and bring various stakeholders. The most important stakeholders would be the homeless. But I stay at home and I think about this and I say, do the math, please.
You wrap up your comments.
No, my time is not up, Mr.
get
Mayor.
2.5
No,
minutes.
no,
Okay.
it is not. Whenever I say something and address the situation
Okay,
and
can
you
wrap
do
up your
not like
comments, please?
what I'm saying, you say my time is up, and now you're wasting my time here again.
Okay, give your 10 minutes.
I
Let me sit all the time,
suggest
Joe.
that for an emergency situation,
Oh
we
my
bring
God.
together hotels, motels, and churches, just as we've always done. When I think of a catastrophe, an emergency situation, I think of the flood
Okay.
in
Can you wrap up your
1938,
comments, please?
the tornado
Please.
Oh
of
God, this is brutal.
1953.
Can you wrap up your
But in the
comments, please?
meantime, to leave a hotel open when we could house 99 people, thank you.
Thank you.
She's gonna punch
She
him.
just let her
Feeling
finish. She would have
spicy in the
been
new
done under
year.
time.
For real.
Here it comes. Right on time. Right on time. Let's go, Fred. I think that we should execute
So
the
I don't know
homeless.
how much I can really talk about it since you're taking it up, at a later point. But I don't know if you can even make any comments, Mr. Mayor. On
can.
7A, are you allowed to
Good
talk about
suggestion.
what the city
Good
is on the
suggestion.
hook for?
No, we can make you. We're not going to go back and forth. You can make your comments.
Then they
I
wouldn't
just
be
want to
able
know
to shut
if
people up early
you,
either.
as the mayor or the city manager, or any of the councilors, are allowed to discuss it since you're going into executive session.
That's
No,
the
we're
point
gonna
of
discuss that in executive session.
So you're not
Executive session.
allowed to bring up any numbers out here then, correct?
Correct.
All right. 17F and
what a
17G,
Machiavellian
dealing with
wizard.
the RTA. Obviously, there are issues out there.
Yeah, especially like
I mean,
an
everybody
open
wants
mic.
to get funding for
It's really
everything.
tough. Comics go
Are you allowed
like
to
8,
say
9
what
minutes
the
on
city
a 5-minute spot.
contributes to the availability to keeping the buses free? In other words, what is the city on the hook for? Is that something you can discuss?
We're not going back and forth. You can make your
I'm just
comments.
asking you a question, Mr. Mayor. Is that
Sure.
something you're able
It's
to?
on the agenda.
Dude, Joe Petty's getting the
Well,
Joe's getting the
Please
shit.
make your comments.
Did he
He's
walk
getting
out
the
on
shit
like a,
kicked out of him.
Did he walk out on a
when you
lunch
have
check or
things
But
something?
this
on the
person
agenda,
knows
sometimes
how
it's
this
tough
goes, that they
for
don't
the
answer
general people
questions
to
during
actually
this segment.
follow along.
Yeah, the guy who speaks
But I think
every
if we had
fucking
an
week.
idea
Yeah.
what
Like,
the
he
city's on the
knows
hook
this.
for,
He's
maybe it
just
would
pushing
be
buttons.
easier for us as participants out here to be able to talk about this stuff. It helps if we know this information, Mr. Mayor.
I genuinely
I
think
know
that,
you
like,
probably disagree
know
with me on that, but
we feel
it
differently
helps
about
if we
Idella
have actual
and Fred,
numbers. So when
but
we're
they've been at
talking
this
about
so
things,
long where they definitely have got sucked into
let's
like the
just
whole main
say,
character thing, right? Like they
that
think
the
they're
Oh,
part of the
yeah.
show at this point. Like
to the RTA,
Fred's waiting to be sworn
$2
in.
million a year. I don't know if it's that high. But
Yeah,
let's just say
Fred
it
was just
We
talking
would
like he
have a
very much
better
believes he
idea
has decision-making
to
power.
bring stuff
Through the chair.
before the
If I don't have
council,
the information,
to you, Mr. Mayor and
how am
city
I supposed to
manager.
weigh in on this?
Well,
Like,
well,
no one cares if you weigh
Totally
on this, dude.
blind. It's really tough to really
I mean,
talk
you guys
about
have seen him
stuff
about
that we
town. He
don't
walks around the
have
city like
any
he fucking
background
owns it.
information. And so for that part,
Thank you.
I'm
I
getting
am
like Yelp
dissatisfied.
super comment vibes.
Anybody else?
Like somebody that
Anybody
feels like they
online?
have a lot of power.
Mr. Mayor, anybody who's on the virtual.
Yeah,
Zoom
and look at
platform,
why.
you can
Mo
raise
Bergman's
your
talking to
hand.
him like,
You
I'll
can
tell you
vote
later. I'll tell you
on
later.
Why did he
the
move
star
back to
9.
his
It
seat?
doesn't seem that anybody's raised their hand, Mr. Mayor, so I think we can conclude with the virtual platform as well.
He
We'll
blasted a
close that part of the
huge
meeting.
fart. It
We'll
was
go
just
to
like,
hearings
trying
and
to let it clear
orders. 6A to 6F. Motion is to open the hearing. Roll call.
Councilor Bergman?
Three commenters.
Councilor Florio?
Yes.
Councilor Gia?
Yes.
Councilor King?
All right, I'm going to restart one more time to see if we can't get.
We're not missing anything on the National Grid Charter.
No.
stuff. Like,
The poor
yeah,
guys from
surprised we
National
haven't
Grid who
been
have to
seeing,
go and
like,
sit there for
Verizon
that.
ones.
I don't know.
What was that, Yenni?
Seeing nobody opposed.
I'm just surprised we
motion
haven't
to
been
close
seeing
the hearing
Verizon
and
things
to
pop up
adopt.
on that section
Roll
of the
call.
agenda.
Counselor Bergman?
Yes.
Because they're
Councilor Florio?
actively putting
Yes.
stuff in.
Councilor
They were
Gia?
just
Yes.
on
Councilor
Pleasant
King?
Yes.
Street.
Councilor
Yeah.
Carlson?
Well,
Councilor Yan?
Yes.
yeah,
Councilor
that's
Rivera?
curious. I'm curious about that because it's
Councilor
all
Rose?
bio
Yes.
stuff,
Councilor
right?
Russell? Councilor
I believe
Toomey?
that they're installing right now.
And Mayor Petty?
Yes, we will do 7A at the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
Then,
Right now, you can get
petitions.
5G in most areas of the city, but they're putting in
8A.
FiOS, which is what's worth it. The 5G is not worth it.
8B
If you have
to
horsehair
8F.
plaster,
Hearing
don't
for
even bother
Public Works.
trying.
8A to the planning board.
You will not get a good
8G
enough
to 8O
signal.
refer to the traffic and parking committee. Anybody on here on those items? Seeing none, the motion is to send those to respective committees. Roll call.
Counselor Bergman?
Yes.
Counselor Calorio?
All right, guys, I just got the text. I gotta get into the venue and set up.
Yes.
But
show.
have a good
Have a good
rest of the
show,
stream,
Yes.
Rock
and I'll
on.
let you know
Bye.
how playing every morning by Sugar Ray goes.
Toomey?
It's gonna be
Mayor
silly.
Petty?
All right,
Yes.
take care, guys.
Later, bud.
I was asked to take out of order 14A to 14D. Some people in the audience for that. These are ordained on the roll call.
My only concern with FiOS is the legitimate speeds once it's like rolled out.
Yeah.
But that also it
Mr.
might be
14A and 14D
it would be
on a roll
better
Hang on.
enough that enough
Council
like
King.
improvement over charter that people
Just
will
a quick
drop
question,
the
Mr. Chairman.
municipal
I'm just,
broadband thing.
Curious.
And that's it.
where
I
we're at
really
as
hope
far as
municipal
the
broadband
staff
doesn't get dropped, but the
general
FiOS lines are
Which one?
usually gigabit
14D.
minimum.
The
Yeah.
dispatchers.
So.
I know it's
Yeah.
just regional dispatchers, but I'm just saying, I know that they were looking to staff up.
I'll absolutely
Well, yes,
I'll switch if I have the
dispatchers. I'm
chance.
just curious if we have an idea.
I would
because
switch in a heartbeat.
The hiring
Yeah.
process.
It's crazy how much charter is charging now too, because they're trying to recoup their cable losses.
Yeah, I mean, a couple nights ago, 1 a.m.
Just
rolled
through the
around,
chair to the
and
counselor,
there was a
we have
planned
approximately 10
outage
openings
that they
now.
hadn't notified me
So
of.
we went from about half
No,
staff.
I don't know about
We've been able to
what
staff
everyone
up.
else's
We have
experiences are, but
great
my
candidates in
internet
training right
legitimately
now.
doesn't work
About 10
after
more
1:30
positions.
in
We're
the
in the
morning.
process of filling, and then we'll
Like,
be fully staffed.
I'm a bit of a night owl. I'm kind of a bad boy. I'll stay up late and watch a movie.
Take
And
14A to 14 on
as
a roll
soon
call.
as
Ordained.
that time rolls around, buffering
Counselor
like
Bergman?
crazy. And if I
Yes.
stop it,
Calorio?
then game over.
Counselor
I'm not
Gia?
going back.
Counselor King?
Yes.
Councilor Carlson?
I actually
Councilor
generally
Rivera?
stay up till like 3,
Councilor
4 o'clock in the
Rose?
morning.
Councilor Russell?
A
Councilor
night
Toomey?
that I don't get like
And Mayor
just
Petty?
completely exhausted before then.
Yes.
And Tracy Novick was just like,
Yeah, Councilor
"Do you
Rivera,
ever
John C.
sleep?"
Council confirmation. Treasurer
So she
information
actively
communication
asked me that
with
this
Angel
past week.
Rosario,
She's
Lee
like,
Hall,
"I never know if you're
Kevin
sleeping or
Curry,
not."
and David Myers as constables for 30-year term expires December 2025. Congratulations to them. So the motion would be to file a roll call.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
Councilor Gia?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Carlson? Councilor Yan?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty?
Yes. Adopt on a roll call. Recommend the appointment of Patricia Austin to the Greenwood Worcester Advisory Committee.
Yeah, I got to hop off real quick just to make
Thank you
a
for your
quick phone
service.
call. Let me
And,
peel
roll
for a
call.
second, and I will
Councilor
get right
Bergman?
back to you.
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
Councilor Gia?
Yes.
Dropping like
King?
flies.
Yes.
He's got to call
Councilor
the booth
Carlson?
guy.
Councilor Yan?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera? Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
I need a good
Yes.
booth guy.
Hey, Mayor Petty.
Brendan, when you get back, let me know.
Yes. 9.3A, recommend adoption of amendments to the salary ordinance to regrade several supervisory positions. A roll call.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
That's
Councilor
insane.
Gia?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Carlson? Councilor Yan?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty?
Yes. Department of Public Works, 9.6A, transmitting information communication relative to expiration of the Stage 1 drought alert. Oh, can you just give us a real recap of where we are and, without the snow, what your projection is maybe for?
Yenni, Mo's asking for your
What's the
assistance.
weather report?
Mr. Mayor, the snow is a 4-letter word, so
Whoa.
I'll refrain from talking about snow. But with regards to the drought,
Access control project.
I have no
enter into
idea.
a
I have
drought
not been
situation,
really detailed looking
because
at
the levels were approaching what
what's
the
going on with
historical
the
minimum
police
was.
budget and all of
The
the
end of
various
summer,
allocations
July
they're
and
doing right
August,
now.
we were right on that
I
same
kind
curve
of
and trajectory.
ignored politics
But
for
as of
a month.
fall set in,
That the
started to
city
pull
council
away
was off
with
for.
the
I just
recent
needed a
rains
break.
and snows and precipitation in December. We've now shot
Granted, this agenda
people
only came
straight
out
up,
2 days ago. So.
and we're in excess of 80% of capacity right now. So it really took a remarkable turnaround. The precipitation we saw in the fall really just sort of replenished, and the groundwater saturated the ground. So when you got into December and we had continued precipitation, it just really filled right up. So we're back well above to where we were.
It's a compute. It looks like it's a computer system, like a type of. There
And
we
we will
go.
continue to
Type
follow
of.
the historical trajectory,
like IT
all the way
management?
through March and into April. So
What
I
are
think
we
we're in
talking
very
about?
good shape.
It's just like a
Maybe you give us an
cybersecurity
update
thing.
of April, where we are.
Access control program.
If we're not
Master
still in
control
mode by that
programs
point,
from
I would
Tron. I know
really-
that.
Thank you.
But
Okay,
access
George,
control program
oh.
looks like it's looks like a cybersecurity thing.
George, file. Motion is to file. Roll call.
I lost the narrative. I thought we were talking about water.
Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
Councilor
Yeah.
Gia?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Carlson?
It's probably to delete a bunch of
Councilor Young?
files before the feds
Councilor
can get in
Rivera?
there.
Yeah, for real.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
It's true.
Yes.
Mayor Petty?
Yes.
If you're gonna talk like that, Mo, get back to the gallery.
9.8A. Recommend adoption of the order of the snowplow conflict of interest waiver form. Did I miss one?
No, not on
Oh,
there.
sorry.
No, don't say that.
Transfer
Gio.
information communication of
It's-
the Lake Avenue
It's
sewer
on their
pumping station
on
failure
their
and remediation.
city issued phones.
Of
Come on.
course.
Mr. Manager?
I just want to quickly rise
Mr.
here. I know
Manager.
This has been a big important topic.
First
that we're
meeting
actually
after
really
officially being
discussing
sworn in
a
last
number of
Friday.
meetings,
How many fucking swearing ins
Why
are they gonna
is
give this
he
guy?
sworn in? It's not an elected
and
position.
Candy Merrill
Mhm.
Carlson. And
And they did it
community's been very
twice.
active, very engaged.
And they picked
Yeah.
January goddamn
For
6th.
A lot of great questions.
You know why?
This has been something that's been an issue in that
Um,
area of the state
Weird.
for a long time. and
I've heard
hopefully
through the
some of the remediation
grapevine
plans
that
we
there
have
were some
moving
other
forward will
opportunities for
have a
other
better
people to
impact
join
longer
his
term.
celebration.
But I also want to give a
Some
shout out
people to
to
like
Senator
share the
Mike
spotlight,
Moore, who also helped
and he was
solidify
pretty
some
adamant about
funding
not doing
for
that.
this. That's going to help us to kind of be able to
Oh, what kind of
also,
people?
improve.
I'm not at
infrastructure.
liberty
We
to
have a long way
discuss
to
on the
go.
stream because it
We
would
have a
kind of
little
give
bit of
away my
increment
source.
over time,
But
and we'll
I would
continuously
happily
be
tell you guys
working on
off
that
stream.
over the next
Sure.
year or so to make sure we bring that project to completion.
I
But
mean, because
wanna,
they no one saw it the
also,
first time. Me and
again,
Travis were the only
reiterate
two
the
people
importance
watching
of the
the
community
first one.
engagement and involvement in this process because we know this has been a
That's right. The
extremely impactful-
Vinsurrection, baby. Vince McMahon is back at WWE, and it happened on January 6th.
Councilor Russell? You want to go to the committee?
Works, yes, please.
Nothing,
Are
Eric.
you considering Brazil the first most?
Coordinate that and the neighborhood people who are
Or
involved.
some
Oh, yeah,
other
Brazil.
thing to Hellraiser?
Senator Michael Moore was on.
No,
top
he's
of that
talking. I'm
again.
pretty sure he's talking about
I wanna thank you
WWE.
for his advocacy, especially with the lieutenant.
Vince McMahon forced
Former
himself back
Lieutenant Governor
onto
Polito.
the board of
We actually,
directors.
in our last days of office,
No. You weren't. You were not. You absolutely were not
I
talking
wanna thank
about
everybody
Brazil.
who worked
Sorry.
on this.
Talking about a much more
Motion
political
to send out the public
event,
works. Roll call.
and that was
Councilor
WWE.
Bergman? Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
Councilor Gia?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Merrill Carlson?
Yes.
Councilor Young?
Aw.
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty?
Yes. 9.8
ACAB. All cops are Broncos.
Recommend adoption of the order out to the snowplow conflict of interest
Vince
waiver
did.
form.
Vince
Roll call.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
knows his
Yes.
power
Councilor Gia?
and wields
Councilor
it.
King?
Yes.
Councilor Merrill Carlson?
Yes.
Councilor Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty?
Yes.
Bolsonaro's in the hospital right now.
13A, transferring from
Also,
police
Florida?
yeah,
report
he
provided
got a
by
tummy
Director
ache.
of
He's in the hospital
Managed Emergency Communications.
CIA
Emergency
poisoned
Manager
him
of the communities
with public subs.
disaster relief funds. And I don't know if we want to do these together, B, A, and B, or you want to do them separately. So we'll put them both out there. Transfer information communication over the emergency management response recovery program
No,
changes as submitted by the.
that's why it was a perfect weapon, because
So we'll do
who
it
could
first.
resist?
Council Haji?
you, Mr. Chairman. Just
I drove
like
by
to
Council Haji
give
today.
major kudos
We
to the
waved
city
at each other.
manager's office and
Nice.
Director
Aw.
Goodwin for providing this report. It was really good to see the
As long
various,
as I,
the various,
my only hope is
goals.
that Vince
I
waits
just had one
until after
question.
WrestleMania to
use,
take over again. I know it's impossible to hold him off forever. Listen to Parts Unknown, everybody.
So I
Thank you.
really appreciate this. Was really good to read, and if you actually found a couple of other communities that I weren't aware of. So I really appreciate that.
You guys released your list
Just a quick
for,
question. Why
is it
wasn't Boston,
WrestleMania coming up? There's something big coming up that you guys were putting together a list for.
So
For in the last episode.
funding that they
I don't
have
remember.
is
I just saw it on
primarily COVID-19 driven.
social media,
So I
truthfully.
didn't want it to skew the
Oh yeah, well, the Royal Rumble is coming up.
That's what it
This
was.
is about funding for emergency housing, I think she said, or something like that.
Recovery from the Boston Marathon bombing, and then some of the COVID-19 ones, but they weren't specifically long-term disaster relief funds like some of these communities that were established to be ongoing. They were targeted towards very specific events. So I kind of excluded that one just for the purposes of, I wanted to make sure the information was kind of revolving around ongoing, constant, established disaster relief funds.
Thank you. And through the chair, I appreciated the chart to show the different categories and how the applications. That it was really thorough. I really liked it.
Thank you.
I think one of the recommendations from the chair to you is that when this goes, and I believe this is going to go to committee, it would be great for us to do some outreach to some of the survivors of either
All right, I'm going to jump off for briefly than everybody else.
Cool. And that's because I want to make sure that their voices, their experiences.
So is this 11A or
and I'm gonna
913B or 913A? I think it's 913A.
That's what they said, but
I don't have it mute for their questions, but that was just my recommendation.
Did anyone else catch it in the chat?
And see if they can provide some feedback to you, to the city, to myself, but also to provide some testimony at that committee hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. And through the chair to the council, I think, working with the city manager's office as we move forward into potentially establishing this, there's going to be a couple of focus areas. And one of those is going to be something that I did not see in a lot of these funds were how to address immediate needs. A lot of them were application based, and it was something that was driven for providing some sort of recovery mechanism, but several days later. And I think our focus should be on, those first 48 hours after. How do we, help those that are in need immediately rather than several days later?
Yeah, and through the chair, that's a really good point. I think one of the things that I noticed in some of the applications is the bar seems pretty high, providing social security numbers and all that. And I just want to make a point to say that, the purpose, at least the way that I was envisioning it after what happened with Mill Street and after speaking to various survivors, is that
there's some drama,
we know,
and I'm not looking forward to tomorrow night's neighborhood watch meeting.
Got burned or thrown away.
What's the drama?
About the homeless shelter. There's some serious problems going on in the community with how they're treating the residents.
We don't do our due diligence.
There was filming happening, amongst other things that were posted and then removed from social media that Attell has decided to not re-share talk about, so I'm waiting on her to discuss the items because there's some pretty serious potential issues related to needing to involve
just in the last year, and some of the stats that I got back
on the community end, not the shelter end.
Our is 126 building fires only in between 2021 and 2022. And obviously, I don't also need to remind folks that just in that
St.
last
Paul's,
year,
that's
we've
because
lost
they've
3
been
people,
deleted.
in 2021 for people at Gate Street. And that doesn't even include all the displaced, hundreds of displaced people, most recently at Plumley Village, as we saw with Mill Street. And I'd love to know how many actually.
Anyone know if all of Plumley Village is back in?
Either through emergency fires or other disasters. And I mention that because I really do want those folks to really help us navigate this process. I want their voices, their experiences, what they went through. I want to hear their feedback about if someone unfortunately found themselves in this situation again, what would feel helpful. And so when I think about the people that have lost their lives and the people who have lives have been upended by all these disasters, I just cannot stress enough how important this disaster relief fund will be for our community members. I plan to speak at the committee. I plan to do outreach myself to some of the folks that I've stayed in
Come on,
contact
camera
with.
guy, focus.
And I really want to center the voices and experiences of those that have been affected.
I don't know if those
And
cameras
thank you,
are
City Manager, for
able
your
to manually.
Thank you. Council Bergman.
I would love
Thank
to
you.
have a Wawa here.
Thank you,
Oh,
Mr.
yeah.
Mayor. Obviously,
I'm not a super fan of Wawa.
congratulations to Goodwin on a good
We need a
report.
Buc-ee's.
It's very
That's
well
the
done.
real
I took an
score.
interest in
My
it.
We need to
best
be able to
friend-
say sheets on a regular basis. That's the
We
problem.
need a Stu Leonard.
Disasters that we come across, at least locally.
Stu Leonard's is
And,
not
certainly
anything to write home
nothing
about.
commonplace in life.
Stu Leonard's is fun.
Idea to look at these
It's also a pain in the ass.
communities
It's
have options
I
that
used
don't
to
necessarily
live near one when I was at school in New
tax,
Britain, Connecticut,
related
and we
funding.
would only
The
take
one in Danbury, or
All of us here are
on the Berlin
trying to
Turnpike.
get programs
Oh,
on
okay.
board that don't necessarily have to cost the taxpayers money. But regardless,
I grew up in,
again, life
in
is precious.
Westchester
and if it
in New York,
costs
so we were
taxpayer
always going to the
dollars,
one
and that's the only
the one in
alternative. I'm
Danbury.
still going to be supportive of the program. But I rise, though, to mention one thing, that although the fires unfortunately have resulted in death all too often
Cool.
in Worcester,
Thanks, Miss
there is
Mom.
another category of disaster that I didn't see listed, and I read the report very, very carefully, and that's
It was-
flooding. And we all have dealt with constituents who contact us when there's a downpour, flash flood, and the basement gets flooded. And unlike fire, where again, taking aside the loss of life, which nobody can compare anything to, there is
But-
usually insurance with fire. With flooding,
Oh, okay, good.
flooding takes place in the basement. The homeowner's policy doesn't cover it, and if it's related to a flash flood where the infrastructure of the city contributes to it, the city denies the claims. And I think we need to be conscientious of the fact I asked for and
I still
appreciate
don't
receiving
understand why
some
flood
data.
insurance is not
Between 20 and
included
22,
in all
there were about
policies.
15 claims
Like,
put
it
in.
should just be
No
a standard
surprise
thing
to
at this
me,
point.
15 and 0 as far as the denials. The city is well
It
within its
shouldn't be
rights
an
to deny
add-on.
those claims, but it doesn't help.
I'm
the
sure
people
there's
that
a
are affected
business
when
reason
they lose their,
where-
Oh, of course, it's all money.
their
Yeah,
water.
they're greedy.
Sometimes they can't.
Heck, even in Florida, flood insurance isn't required.
So on and so forth. So I think when we're looking at a comprehensive program, we need to also look at the flooding as
A lot of people got
category, which we could try to
F
find
by
ways
that
to
this
compensate people. Thank you.
this past
Sure.
year,
Mr. Manager.
especially the folks
Thank you,
inland
Mr.
with that
Mayor.
river.
Just quickly, I just want to take this point actually to
Took 2
remind
months
people
to go down.
that through the ARPA program, we did initiate an application process for residents who are in those floodplain zones, who are in those positions to submit applications because the city is willing to provide funding for their flooding insurances into their homes. So I just wanted to throw that out there to remind folks that we received some.
I know of a flood that took 40 days to go down,
Flood insurance
and nights
through the
even.
city's ARPA program. Thank you.
Thank you.
What about the floods that came
Councilman
after the
Wynn?
meteor struck and took out the dinosaurs?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's true.
You know,
Yenni,
I
you would
just
know
wanna
this better than myself, but
warming and cooling
does the
centers.
city have a different
So, you know,
roster
on
of
this
flood zones
shows that there's
than
only
the federal
3,
government?
climate centers.
They
and
do.
No,
so
it's all
I
based
just
on
wanted to
FEMA.
ask, where are we
So
with
if
this thing?
if people are living in flood zones or a floodplain,
Director Goodwin.
and they're not carrying flood insurance,
Through the
like,
chair to the counselor.
They have
why the hell we
we're
talking about this?
Working on
It's
MOUs
like-
with
I mean, like my
locations
next
right
door
now for
neighbors,
them,
there was like
educational
a
facilities in the
huge
city.
storm a few
But
years
I
back
want to drive home one of the
that completely
major
flooded like
points
most of the
this
city. I don't
report
remember exactly
is
which
also
year or
that
storm it was,
private
but the
public
backyards
partnership
of
program that
like
we're
the
looking to kick off,
entire
because that's going to be a
block,
big focus of
other than
not only
me,
disaster
because I'm up
response and
slightly
relief,
higher,
but
were
climate,
their basements were
shelter and
completely and
opportunity.
utterly flooded.
Bringing,
There was a lake in the
public
middle
and
of
private
the
entities
block,
together to
Mhm.
discuss
and
some of those
we're not
issues.
in a floodplain. We're
Yeah,
not.
neither
in a
am I. But I mean,
floodplain.
anytime we get a big
So-
storm,
from
I'm
previous
knee deep in
disasters
water.
that
I just,
would love
but that's it's actually on me. It's because I need to reseal my basement. It's not the water's fault. It's
meetings in the
because
future.
my
Yeah, but
basement needs to be
resealing your
resealed.
basement's only going to go so far if
time
the
in and
water
time
is
out,
coming in
I've
through the
sat
doors
in
and
these meetings
windows
heard how
because it's
passionate
up that high.
the public is about things going on in the city, and this I really
I
wanted
mean,
to
my
bring
neighbors,
a program together that gave not
there's a
only private
CMHA
businesses,
shelter, and I
but
actually
private
called his
entities
cell and was like, hey, like,
our non-government
y'all didn't
organizations
clean
that
out
wanted
the
to
grading in your backyard, and now the entire
contribute
block is
to
flooded.
disaster response
And she's
and
like,
recovery,
oh, I'll get someone on
sheltering,
that. And they had to use
recovery, and some
waders
of
to
our
get
other
down
disaster
into it.
programs into the city.
Wow, which restaurant do they work at?
This gives them the opportunity
Huh?
to all
Oh.
come together. That being said, as far as climate centers go,
So if you're talking
that
about
might be a British term.
working with about 3 to 4 other locations.
if you're talking about like that crazy storm we got back in 2015, that was my
No, it was much
30th
sooner
birthday.
than that. It was
Okay.
either
in every
like
district,
2020, 2021. It was definitely during the
Crazy.
pandemic.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit to that.
There was
I
a
think one of the
time when
biggest challenge, and that's
146
why we only have
flooded.
3 right now.
And
One of the biggest
Oh, that was a
challenges
bad
that we
one.
face is
I want to hear what
building
Eric's
back
saying about this.
facilities for heating and cooling. You need the capability, the HVAC system capability. You need the bathroom capabilities. You need a bunch of other capabilities that when we've reached out to other, whether it's local churches or other entities, it's been a little bit challenging because they may require HVAC system upgrades, or they may require upgrades to their bathrooms or their kitchenette or whatever it may be. And so that's why our strategy now shifting and going to some of our higher ed institutions could provide a better benefit. And we're working through that right now and through those discussions because they have the facilities to be able to support kind of this level of infrastructure.
Thank you. That's really good news. And I'm glad that we're, building not only capacity, but also the important relationships needed to have long-term success with this. And so I just want to ask, what is the timeline that we're thinking about in terms of the new climate centers?
So the new climate centers, we're actively engaging them with MOAs right now. Many of them have draft copies from the city that they're intending to sign. So probably, the ones we're engaging right now, I would assume if they agree would be within the next 30 to 60 days, if not sooner, because they all have draft copies now that they're reviewing. So as long as they agree to it, then we're going to be in a signing process within the next couple of weeks.
Did he
That's
shorthand
really
warming and
amazing to
cooling
hear,
centers to
especially
climate
since
centers?
winter is coming and hopefully every district has a climate
Nice
center.
name.
And then I was
Warming and
really
cooling.
interested in the
Climate.
community emergency response team. I think that's a really amazing program. I would love to learn more about it, whether you want to share now or provide a report with numbers. How many people have we trained? What is the sustainability of it? Has people, who graduated or got the, training have been volunteering and stuff like that? And as well as, I think we talked offline about this in regards to what's the pipeline that we could do to really encourage people to do this? Because I think it's a really amazing thing. Is there things that we could kind of take off as barriers if there's an age or, you know what I mean? I would love to see
Granny
so many
Beverly.
more people engage in it,
terrible.
especially like you were saying, where there's community folks who are really into supporting each other right now. So just wanted to ask that for.
How is that a typo?
Through the chair to the councilor,
Starting
we
to
have
think that
trained about
maybe Granny Beverly is not a real person.
Since building our program, have become kind of the central hub for central Massachusetts. So we have volunteers from other communities coming here to be trained now because the other communities are not capable or they don't have the resources to train their own volunteers. And all of my staff are now certified trainers. Out of those 23, 24 that we've done in the last 2 programs since we've kicked the program off, we have 11
that
very
Gordon Lightfoot.
volunteers, but we're currently kind of building out and trying to get more people to join. The more people that join, the more, I think benefit to the city.
Helps if they send down information about it.
Disaster response, but part of our change in responding to disasters is looking at utilizing them more on the fire scenes, because we all know that the American Red Cross has had a lack of volunteers and been unable to respond to a lot of fires. And I think that's a great opportunity for our CERT team to come down and volunteer and help us. And then, in combination with the potential for, this disaster relief.
Wait, isn't this the same thing that Auburn and Grafton have had for a decade plus?
One thing that we've focused on
Really?
a lot is with our current volunteers. I think the reason the Red Cross lost a lot of their volunteers.
Yeah, I was in
is
a bunch
for
of their Facebook groups, and they would always place ads saying like, "Hey, the next training's coming up" and stuff.
volunteer. And that's something I don't want to happen to our program. So we're constantly doing programs with them, training programs on a monthly basis on various different subjects. We're looking to get them more involved in our local emergency planning committee, and then with our private public partnership and our fire responses. So that way they can feel engaged to the level that they feel comfortable with. So we have no barriers. We welcome absolutely anyone. It doesn't matter age or anything else. We don't want there to be a barrier. We want it to be as inclusive and diverse as possible. Our training program includes
It's
training we've been able to obtain in various
because she's inbred.
so that way we would be able to train and provide opportunities for those that spoke English, but those that spoke other than English. So it's really coming down to just getting those engaged and finding the right times and places to train. Right now, we conduct a lot of the trainings either virtually or at our building, but we're going to be expanding that this year to try to engage people and do trainings in neighborhoods, at neighborhood meetings, and then at other locations that are more viable to them.
Thank you so much for your answers and your, intentions in doing this. I think, for it to be just a few years training 23 folks and having 11 people who are like on the ground doing this work is a huge success. And so, I also want to thank you for shifting the culture. This program allows Worcester to shift the culture to do this actual kind of work. So I thank you so much. And thank you so much, City Manager Batista.
And through the chair to the counselor, that's one of our big focuses with this private-public partnership is diversity and inclusion. I can guess.
The crown is if you've got Twitch
off
gaming.
Statistics. Again, I don't know. Having
Yeah,
more
the Amazon, right? Yeah.
private
Amazon Prime.
organizations and private citizens willing to come forward and work with us on disaster response is going to really educate us as a division and as responders at what people need out there. And it might give the opportunity for more private organizations in the city that have resources that I might not have to be able to come forward and say, these resources are available. And if you need us, we can work together on a plan to respond to some of those disasters and help the people that are truly in need.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Sorry.
you. No, that was it. Thank you.
Councilor Hajia?
Thank you. Very quickly, on the second report, kudos to you for including those 3 changes, the duty officer, the disaster navigator services, and having an emergency contact, something that is going to be invaluable.
And a
to have
diamond,
the
Yenni.
person answering the phones. I would like to make a recommendation for the report.
Because I made her
I noticed
VIP.
that in the brochures in the back, there's something lacking about tenant rights. Why I bring that up, and before anybody accuses me of being anti-landlord, I'm not. There are amazing landlords in the city that do amazing work, and then there's
Only
landlords
Yenni.
that are irresponsible and they're absent from their tenants' lives. I want to make sure that when folks get into those situations where they can't reach their landlord or
Mo,
they're
we had a
someone
deal
who's
going and you backed off.
there's someone
That was
There's
months ago.
there is unfortunately an identity proving requirement to become a VIP. It's a long process, a lot of paperwork.
have that so that they know what their rights are in those situations.
Blood
So
oath,
a
you know.
simple thing as a tenant brochure, tenant rights, and listing the community legal aid number, as well as the number for a fair housing project coordinator.
Granny Beverly, you
I think
just
would be extremely
followed us all of 5
Through the
minutes
chair
ago.
of the council, I'll make sure we
Yeah.
get that added in. We're in the
Add some
process
good
right
quality
now.
content and we'll
Those are
consider
our
it.
first 2 of many different publications we're working on. Ultimately, we determined within the division that some of the FEMA publications and some of the other things that exist
Got 'em,
are great.
coach.
They're very generic and just they don't work for what we have going on in the city. So we wanted to refocus and create some of these publications with information that would really be beneficial. And I'll make sure that we get that in there because we're in the process of translating some of those 2 right now into other languages, but it won't be hard for us to add another page or 2 in there before we go to print.
I appreciate that. And before I finish, also just want to give major shout out to your former staff, Dinah Rawls, because I know that she had a big role in making sure that the idea for the disaster emergency fund got through, and I'm sure she put a lot of work in that report. So kudos to all of you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we can send those reports to public safety. We're all set. So A and B, roll call.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
Councilor Agia?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Merrill Carlson? Councilor Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera? Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty.
Yes. Next item up is transmitting information and communication over the 2023 municipal election calendar. So any questions on that? You know, some changes to the dates. So it is what it is. So, okay, roll call.
Councilor
I'd love
Bergman?
for someone to ask why
Yes.
there was a change at
Yes.
least.
Yes.
That would have been
Councilor
nice.
King? Yes. Councilor Merrill Carlson? Councilor Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yeah.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Because it's a pretty big
Councilor
change.
Russell?
It's 2 months.
Toomey?
Right.
Yes.
And Mayor Petty.
Yes.
R.I.P. Granny Beverly.
First day of nomination papers is
We
April
barely knew
4th
you.
this year. People are listening. Okay, so
Because we fucking booted her ass.
She got moderated.
If you're gonna troll, then at least be interesting. Is
9.29A.
my whole deal.
Transmitting information communication relative to the fiscal year 2023 financial update as on November 30th, 2022. Send that to MO. All set. Any questions?
Is
Roll
it
call.
January 6th already?
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
Councilor Agia?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Merrill Carlson? Councilor Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty.
Yes. Transmit information communication of the certification of available funds in the DCU Special District Improvement Fund. Anybody wants that? We can file that, if that's okay. Or roll call.
So Mayor, you want to file it? Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
Use your words, Joe.
Greenbrook Valley.
King?
Yes.
Councilor Merrill Carlson?
I just noticed the wreath
Yeah.
behind
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Donna's head.
Councilor
Is that
Rose?
just like
Yes.
a memorial prop?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty.
Yes.
I
Next
never
we have
noticed that
finance
before.
items 9.35.
They're getting ready early for,
9.36A through C.
I don't know.
9.37A
My brain was going to
through
say MLK
C,
Day, but that doesn't
9.38A
make any
through
sense.
D. Everybody's all set. We can take those collectively on a roll call. Roll call.
John
Councilor
Snyder,
Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
He's a
Yes.
Councilor
realtor.
Agia?
Yes.
Councilor King?
He's
Yes.
on
Councilor
Instagram as
Carlson?
John Snyder
Councilor
Keys
Nguyen?
Yes.
and
Councilor
TikTok
Rivera?
as well.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty.
Yes.
He made a comment on Twitter about it, and I've seen nothing else from him. I'm friends
Chairman's
with him on
orders 10A to 10B.
I don't
Motion
know
to
what's going on
adopt.
there.
Roll call.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
Councilor
You'd also
Agia?
think that
Councilor King?
him supporting my campaign, he would have reached
Yes.
out to
Councilor
me
Carlson?
since
Councilor
we've been
Nguyen?
fairly
Yes.
close for like
Councilor Rivera?
4
Councilor
years
Rose?
now.
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
But
Yes.
he's
Councilor
not
Toomey?
made a single other
Yes.
comment that I've
Okay.
seen other than that
Yes.
tweet.
With that, we have orders. A request of the city manager to provide council with a report concerning the city's emergency management evacuation plan for natural and man-made disasters. The report should include the last date that city council exercised this plan and the departments involved in its execution. Council Clorio.
Thank you. It seems like this has been a theme throughout the night today. And I know we spoke earlier about kind of
Same
some
throughout the
funding
night today.
sources for emergency, and we also talked a little bit about training volunteers. This order is a little bit different. It's the actual professional.
Man, imagine if we had
people
2 George Russells
in the
and we could get them to
disaster
ride on like tiny little
and
like
looking
mopeds next to
for
each other.
That'd be
pipeline.
awesome.
That'd be so
I
sick.
know that
If we can get them both on camera
do
during the
have,
Infinite
we
George moments.
do exercises that will
Double Georgeception.
go through the scenario of certain disasters. And I'd like to
Did
know
Donna
when
dress specifically
last
like
time
a character from season 1 of The Walking Dead
exercises
for
were,
just this order?
gone through, when they were implemented, how often we do it, and really what is
It
involved.
looks like she
in the next
grabbed
step.
her
What are
closest
the new
Afghan
things
sweater, knitted
that
some
we're
sleeves into it.
engaging
Yeah,
in
and ran
order
to the meeting.
Tara just started
develop this
snoring
department
really
and
loudly.
these protocols a little bit better. I'm just trying to think of something else that I was going to say too.
I love her response to the city council
Yes,
meetings when
that's
she has
about it.
no idea what's
Thank you.
actually happening,
guess we'll send
but
that
is
to the
responding
manager.
perfectly anyway.
She just
Bergman?
acknowledged
Yes.
forgetting her own order.
Yes.
Councilor
Just
GA?
sat down.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Carlson? Councilor Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
I would love to
Yes.
hear
Councilor
from the
Russell?
commenters
Yes. Councilor
what your
Schumer?
chosen
Yes.
evacuation route
Everybody.
from the city would be.
Yes. 11B, request the manager organize a meeting that
Um,
brings together the various stakeholders associated
Going
with
out
sheltering
on
the
my
city's
on my
chronic
back,
homeless
baby.
population.
You're gonna have
The
to kill me to get
discuss
me
the
to leave
sheltering
this city.
process in the city in an effort
I
to make
think
improvements to said
my answer is
process
obvious.
to address the various needs of the individuals being sheltered. Councilor Rivera, Bergman, Rose, and Toomey and Russell.
I'm gonna go down
One of the things
Greenbrook
that,
Valley Ave.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, one of the things that's really concerning is that
probably go up
we do see
Mosher
a lot of really good
into
effort
like the Paxton
in
Holden area.
folks, you know, trying to
Out of the frying pan into the fire.
vulnerable populations, especially right now. I'm really trying to focus on the adult chronic homeless population. But the way our sheltering system is working,
Yeah, I mean, I'm
right
sure
now,
pieces of me will go in a lot of directions.
very
How far they'll make it out of the city, who could say?
very challenging. So, for example, if you take the triage, and no shade on the triage, for example, I appreciate the fact that they are making sure that there's no
Brendan,
one
do you
staying
have like
outside
the
when
most
the weather
optimal
is cold, when the weather
course
is
selected
bad, when
already?
the weather is rainy.
Oh yeah, no,
But
I've got
that
neighbors, and
building
we
was
legitimately
built
have
for
plans to start
25,
knocking down
30
telephone
max.
poles
I think it
from
was
Tatnick
45
Square
total,
approaching my
25
house
beds,
to keep the
15
riffraff from
SROs.
moving into this side of the city.
And
But then also
then
start
max
there are
their
boulders up past
way over that amount.
the
So
reservoir
that
side that
that's
we got to
hassles
roll
for the
down,
plumbing,
basically
that's
set up
hassles for the
natural
building.
barricades so the Holden folks can't get into the city because
People are
we
sleeping
know
on
they're
the
all going to run out of
floors, on
supplies
mats if
within
they
like
have.
3 days. They're going to
And
start looking
again,
to pillage us.
I'm
But
not
I mean,
putting
that's what all the
down,
motorcycles and 4-wheel drive vehicles are for.
what they're doing because
If
and
shit
You
goes
guys,
sideways, can I
you guys
stay
don't
in a tent?
practice. You guys don't practice offhand
necessarily.
shooting on your
I
motorcycles during the summer.
I really appreciate the fact
I mean,
that
I
they're
do,
not
but
turning, you know, people
just for the
away and
Olympics.
saying, "Oh, we're at this capacity," because they're
If shit
taking
goes
into account
sideways, I'm
that
running towards Newton
the
Square.
weather's
Please let
cold,
me
people
in. I'll
can
show
die
some
out
kind of
there, right, with the
credentials. I have a
elements.
tent.
I'll let you
All I
in.
need is a backyard.
And but at the same time, again, we're
I'm
My
on Worcester State.
my thing used to be that I would take out my bow and arrow, but I no longer have the
over
strength
capacity. They've
to
been at capacity and not
draw
Yeah,
my
you gotta get yourself a
combo.
crossbow for that purpose.
Yeah, it's true. Crossbows work.
The thing with
They're
this
only
is
about
that
only about
when
180
you
bucks
have
from Dick's Sporting Goods.
again, it goes back to kind of looking at
Give you
oversaturation.
they
in
give
one
you 3
location,
bolts too.
overburdening in one location, a building, a situation, or program. We need to. We're the second largest city in New England. Why are we clumping?
Yeah, we're in
populations in
a
one
weird corner of
specific
Worcester
kind of
where
area?
like
We
our
need to
power
look
is
at
actually fed from a separate
where can we
substation
look
from the rest of the city.
different areas where you
When
don't
we had that
have
ice storm back, what was
30,
it,
40,
2008?
we
So
don't
like
have
we were
50,
offline for
70,
almost 2
90,
weeks. It was
100
actually
plus.
kind of neat because
If you have
it was myself and
you
just
have
1 or
less
2 other
shelter
families
beds,
were the only
if you
people left
have
in the neighborhood,
4 shelters
and
for
you
25,
could tell who was
it
left
comes
based on the
out to be
generators that were running.
better in the sense that,
You just hear them
number
off in the
one,
distance.
staff-wise,
It
the
was
ones that have
really weird though
beds,
because you had people just kind of
probably have a
slowly
much
driving through
more
the
quality
neighborhood.
situation.
Hard to tell whether or not they were scoping out abandoned
And when people
properties
get out,
or they
you're
were
not looking
just
at,
sightseeing
let's say some
because
people could
it
stay
was just
in the
homes encased
building,
in ice, and
and
that's kind of cool
let's say
too.
you
But
have 100 and 20 decide to stay. And
according to
let's
the
say you
police, there actually were a lot more B&Es
and
than
again, we're
were
dealing with
publicly
a
reported during that
population
period of
that
time
many
too,
of them
though.
are struggling with substance abuse disorder, with many of them struggling with mental
Society's
illness,
fragile. I'm here for it.
circumstance. I've
It's
had
true.
people just, I've never
That's what my
seen so many
plan.
elderly
Surround my property with
homeless as I have
a
in
salt
this past year.
circle of
But when you have
Legos
people leaving the
so that no
shelter,
one can get
20
through.
decide to
Just
stay, you
Yeah.
have 80
good luck,
people
motherfucker.
going
And
into
don't
the
get me wrong, like I
they don't
have
have anywhere
no
to
sort
go,
of delusions
right?
about
And
being
this
like a
is where
modern
it becomes
barbarian or
kind of
whatnot.
this
I just
time
want to
of
make
they're
it deep
looking where
enough
they're
into the
going to
woods
eat,
so I don't have to listen to the
looking where to
screams
get
of my
warm,
former
you
loved
know, a warming
ones as they get
station, a
picked off
cooling
one by
station,
one.
whatever that
That's
may be, and you have this like
Yeah.
cry out of
Cascades Park would be good.
multitudes of
It's
people going
yeah,
in
no,
one
and there's sections of
particular
that way off the
versus
trails
if you
where
had
it's
4
nice and
different
quiet and just
locations throughout the city,
Oh wow! And
not
you just
all in the
hear,
same
yeah,
district,
you just just hear
sit till
like
the screaming stops.
yeah, you just hear footsteps running up, and they fade off into the distance, and the screams get quieter and eventually cut off, and then you see the cascades just slowly turn to red as they wash down.
Look at what's happened at Blessed Sacrament. They're doing an amazing
Brendan
job.
breaks out
Related
that
to what
box.
she's saying, though, I am getting so sick and tired of people conflating homeless people with people who have drug and alcohol issues.
Correct.
Because less than half of homeless people have that as their issue.
But
What is it? Something 45% of unhoused people in Massachusetts have jobs.
Yeah.
Like full-time jobs.
just keeping up.
Like, it's
and
not
becomes really difficult.
all
We need to
drug
think about
addicts.
how we're our sheltering system. Yes, it goes back.
And even
to
if
that
it
we-
was.
we had the task force that
Yeah.
we looked at.
They still
I mean,
deserve
putting
housing.
up over 100.
Half of this panel has already discussed their
supportive type
drug issues
housing,
tonight. I
you
mean,
know,
it's
we're looking
we
at,
can't
like
be.
the Lewisburg project that the Worcester Housing is doing, the tiny homes.
My
And I know
dab
we
use does not
complete all of
define
that.
me.
We're gonna get, hopefully, I think Lewis will be up this year. I mean, we definitely need to house
The
individuals.
one of the things that I've been kind of bouncing around in my brain a little bit, and I don't even know the right way to approach it
we're working at
because,
that. But in
like,
the
I'm even
meantime, we
thinking it now.
definitely
It's going to
need
sound crass, but it's not meant that
cannot
way at all.
continue
I would be fascinated to see numbers
certain
based
communities
on
over
the population of chronically unhoused folks
individuals.
and
It's
how
just
it's
not
trended
dignified
since
for them.
we shut
How
down
would
our
they get
institutional mental health
food, snacks,
centers
supplies?
on like a
Pretty
wide scale.
manageable.
I feel like
This
it's
is a
easy to
very,
like look around the entire
a
country and say,
community
"Oh,
that
this
has
problem's gotten
good
out of
health
control."
needs,
I
that
have a
has
funny
basic
feeling that
mental
it's
health
probably
needs.
grown in
If you
proportion to the
have
overall
20, 25
population. We're at the
people
point that the population's almost
in
doubled
an
since the
area,
early
one of the
70s.
reasons why
So it's like I
initially
feel
some
like
of
that would
what
almost match up in a weird way, where a lot of just what we
Hotel
see
Grace worked is because
is
they kept it
because we
at
haven't
that kind of
figured out
number
a
and
plan B
being able
from
to
the
kind of have
deinstitutionalization
these
of the
like
70s.
volunteers and home cooked meals and the food being more nutritious, being able to have a decent cot, being able to have laundry, have laundered sheets. Right now, it's a very difficult
We need
situation.
permanent
I'm
supportive
hearing so
housing
many
here in Worcester,
complaints,
and
and
we do
again,
not have it.
I don't think it's fair.
We also need to be willing to
and
accept,
I've been
we've
one
talked
that
about this
I'm
before,
on the
that there's
carpet
always
all
going to
the
be a
time,
percentage of people
but I'm going
too
to
who
stand up.
just
It's
want to
not
be left
fair
alone.
to
Like,
put them
I mean,
down.
it sounds
For
wacky,
example,
but like we
just
probably
one
should have a
example,
hermit
put them
field
down in a
somewhere in
situation
Worcester
when
where
they're
it's just
doing
like, here, like set up your tent, we'll have some porta potties that are cleaned regularly, and we just aren't going to bother you.
We need to
And that
We've
would
got what,
probably make
100 acres at Green Hill Park?
one, and I know
yeah,
that
I mean, wherever. It's just, I mean, that might even be too public. Like, I mean, people who
housed,
really
and
just want to be left
we
alone.
need
And
to
who am I to
also
judge
challenge
how
our
somebody wants to
surrounding
live?
towns. Our surrounding
Does
towns
do,
need to
do
start
people know about
consider
the former
folks from
Hermitage
surrounding towns
on
because
Airport
they don't
Hill?
have shelter capacity. Fitchburg, Webster, Southbridge.
Like there's a lot of different names for it. God's
Believe it or not,
Acre.
we're getting folks from all these
The
areas,
Hermitage nursing home is named after it,
those are
but
all
behind my house,
conversations that I know the
where I
city
grew up,
manager is
the
having, and
neighborhood
I
back there,
keep
there's a thing called
I'm
Deed
also in
Rock.
conversations with
There's a guy that owned a bunch of
with
land up
city
on
manager
Airport Hill,
Batista, and I know that there
and
is a meeting
he
with stakeholders.
kept it as a
But I want to
hermitage.
figure out right now how we
It was,
kind of
mostly religious, in nature, but he deeded the land to God, and he carved his will, last will and testament, or his will, onto a big stone in the woods. Still there, you can check it out.
didn't have
But
too little or too
there's precedent for it.
area, zone, or district. But we
That's
can't
another good
just
point, Main South Mom. I mean, I was working as an EMT at that point in time, and because I was one of the few Worcester folks that worked for the company that I worked for as a private, not the city service. And anytime we went to the PIP shelter, I would always point out to the townies that I tended to work with that you pulled someone's license, which we needed to do. It's always 01602, 01609, and because it was always easy for folks to just like point and laugh at Main South as being a problem without recognizing that in many cases, especially at that moment in time, it was kind of last stop for people that weren't able to get help along the way.
It's about dignity, making sure that people aren't just on the floor, that they are getting a nutritious meal, that it isn't an issue of danger. And I really appreciate that we've been able to support shelters for women that are vulnerable.
Brian, I don't mean to belabor bringing it back to shit goes south, but you talked about your Lego ring. How does your giant skeleton play into your defense?
Oh, new God. No, that's a religious altar. It already is, to be frank. If you come down to the basement, but yeah, that'll be our new religious figure.
Lego?
My backyard capacity, because
Yeah, well, I have a lot of Lego.
Do you watch Lego Masters?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I love Lego Masters. We actually watched the UK and the Australian one too.
I want to watch the Australian one. I hear it's really good, but I've only watched the US
really
one.
good, but there's one season where there's this guy that I just he kept staying in there, and I just wanted to punch him.
I hate most of the
It takes a lot for me to want to punch
every
someone,
season.
and I wanted to punch him.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I generally hate almost all the contestants every season, and I still just love the show. It's great.
The real truths that we all.
There was a team from Worcester on this newest season, the US season.
And I think one of the
I hate
things
their
that
guts.
I think a lot about is
One of them's from Worcester, the other one's from Palmer, and they made them wear Boston stuff.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Vague Boston stuff.
Did they get a key to the city?
And so I would
They better not.
kind of request the city include
I'll make a
folks
Lego
on that
sledgehammer.
because we could only do so much.
Go
This is a national
midsummer on
issue
some people.
COVID. And so I think, we could reflect on our end as
No,
counselors
you're not having
on
my
what we
burrito.
can do to really, really
Her
hammer
head is
it
on my
down
lap,
here to do
about
this type
4
of
inches
work,
from
as
my
well as
burrito,
you mentioned,
staring
not
at
in
it
our backyard
longingly.
type framework. And we also
Posting
need the
the
resources,
pin drop for Deed Rock
and we
for
could only
people.
show as much. And I
If you want
think
to check it, it's
state
not.
and
That's not.
federal level, I
It's not
think if we could,
exactly where it
work
is,
across
but
the
It's not
state
hard to
with
get to
trees,
either.
'cause
no, it's not. You just
like I
be
said, this is
careful.
a
Don't go through
national
people's
issue,
like
and, we
driveways
really need
and
to
like be
get
careful about going onto the Hannon property. They're nice people.
There is a website that has details about how to get there. If you
Thank
just
you, Mr.
Google
Chair.
Deed Rock Worcester, it'll bring you to an old
Apologize
like
for my voice.
GeoCities type page that'll
I
show you how to
was
get there
very happy
without
to
stepping
sign
on
on to
anyone's
this
personal
as,
property.
in my
You can hire me as a guide.
deal
Wow,
with,
she's not even
trying to
on
house,
video.
Formerly released,
It really does
formerly
sound like
incarcerated
she's sick.
prisoners who tend to end up having to go into shelters oftentimes as well.
She actually is on video, Yenni. This
and
is Kate's
some of the
illness for
things
this
that
campaign
I
cycle.
see,
Is she's actually
the
misplaced her body.
inequities that are out there are
She's
really
just a
incredible.
voice now. It's
Councilor
really
Rivera
tragic.
is correct. I mean, some of our neighborhoods do get all
That's
of the
medical term is
all of the,
discombobulation.
shelters, and I'm looking at this really more as a regional and state issue. When I was recently at a shelter, I don't want to mention which one, but I ran into 2 people who were from Boston. And so we know that people are coming to Worcester because we have services, people are being sent to Worcester. And certainly we want to care for everyone and help them. But we also shouldn't be the sole bearer of the cost of this.
I fucking hate this
in
shit.
many ways, the cost of it. And so I fully support this, and I look forward to really working on a regional approach to this. One of the other aspects of that, Mr. Chair, is that, when you continue to put people back in the same neighborhood where there are issues and triggers and things like that, that's not good. And so that doesn't help anybody. So by expanding opportunities for people to be in different geographic areas will certainly benefit everybody. So thank you very much
So
to
are you going to
Councilor
talk to the
Rivera
people who are
for
NIMBYing?
filing this. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. And I know that people want to sign on too.
The call is coming from inside the house,
Did you have your hand up? I'm sorry.
from inside the backyard.
When we find out people are moving here from Brookline because it's affordable, the council turns into a giant circle jerk. When one homeless dude shows up from Boston because he got lost or somebody put him on a bus, suddenly we need to
Because he heard people were nice here.
to start a diversion program.
See when it goes towards housing. We know it comes in various ways, through HUD and through other avenues. If we can get a report back to the council and to the appropriate committee, so we can take a look at that. We can figure out how we as a body and how the administration can perhaps
So business as usual.
Yeah.
differently or in an enhanced manner.
So a Tuesday.
With that being said, I think
I
one of the challenges that we have as
I just
elected
can't get
officials
over
is to really try to balance
Joe Early saying that she gets fired from every job she has. I want to know how many jobs she's gotten fired from.
All of them.
Even housing.
Just go to her
Sounds
LinkedIn.
like it.
The answer is all but one.
Did she get fired from the sheriff's office job yet?
I think she's still there. I mean, what she just said was, I think, vaguely hinting at the idea that the House of Corrections is currently under capacity and could be used as a place to put people.
To all the many things we do, is there any sort of
She's awful.
incentivizing that the city does for landlords?
She also tells people that we say things about her that we don't say. Like, I've heard direct quotes from other counselors, like talking like how bad we are, saying like we talk about her body and stuff like that. Like we've never made a crack about her appearance in any way, shape, or form.
Other than terrible clothing.
Yeah, but that's that's just a taste thing.
On applying for housing.
She George Russell wants to bring up like there's been some harsh things said in the comments about him, but about her, I don't fucking think so. Yeah. I would never let anybody fat shame.
Appreciate the council. I'm not 200%
no fucking way.
We're assholes. We don't lack class, Kate.
Come back, to you with that information.
I'm fatter than
know
Kate.
that
I've never let
from
her even get
time
away with a
we reach
lazy
out to
joke like
realtor
that.
association or landlord associations when we are in
She's
need of
disgusting in her heart and brain.
that was one of the
Has nothing to do with how she
Yeah.
looks.
And she's
Fucking
given a
perfectly
friend of
fine looking
ours.
person.
She doesn't even have a body anymore, and we're not.
Yeah, she's
we're just paying
disembodied.
attention to the voice.
She's just an awful
housing.
soul.
And so that goes out, and that ask goes out on behalf of the city from our housing.
She's given a friend of ours shit.
But I can get back.
And I don't
to
like
you
that
on what
either.
We provide an actual
Come at
incentive
us.
for. I do
Yeah.
know that
Talk
we
to
do
us, Kate.
provide
Kathleen.
rental assistance, and we offer it to
Yeah.
many organizations.
Did Ed Augustus give Eric his lucky tie? Is that what we're seeing here right now?
Seeking that service through the
Why? That's why it's a little too long.
Very rarely we
At
seek the
Augustus
landlords
length.
in that
Isn't that the length the tie's supposed to be?
coming through.
I just
Kinda at
don't
the
know.
Right to the belt
It's a,
buckle?
it should hit above. There should be
When I
there should be
think
a little bit of space between
more
the
that
belt
we
and the
can
tie.
kind of
Ideally.
I disagree. I like it hitting past the tie because it's kind of pointing to the.
Yeah, but then when you zip up your pants, it gets caught in there, and then you're a fool.
Well, that would happen if you're looking down anyway.
You should be looking down. No one should be catching you looking down.
Shelters or
I usually just
options
leave
for
my
folks are
coattails, or not
varying
coattails, my
communities
shirt
or varying
strings,
parts of
whatever,
the
sticking
city.
out my
And I
zipper.
think the more you
Travis
get
is
the,
wicked high, staring at his tie, trying to figure out why am I
information out
wearing
there
a tie?
about,
This is where am I?
successes and neighborhoods and who have
Am I at a
had
funeral?
these sorts of programming in their
On the comment,
communities,
Mark
not just the
Thomas,
challenges, but
Mark
the successes would be
on
great.
Facebook about
And
Red
I
Hike.
appreciate
My
all the work that all
my
of the
second floor
folks
apartment, which is a 3
are
bedroom, is
doing on
about to
this
come
issue,
available next month.
public, private,
And
business.
I'm talking with a realtor, and she's like, "Well, if you fix this, this, and this, you can charge $2,800." I'm like, "Excuse me, what now?"
You want to sign on? Just wanted to
I'm
say
like,
yeah,
"I'm currently renting this for $1,575. I am not going
That's okay.
over
Thank you,
$1,000
Mr. Chairman.
to what it's currently like."
And
No,
yes, definitely.
What's your
I
how
want
many
to
bedrooms?
sign on.
3 bedrooms.
Council
If it's 3
Rivera
bedrooms,
and
I mean,
myself
the Worcester
had
Housing
something
Authority
forward
voucher would pay you
maybe a month
$1,800
ago, could
base
be
for
a little
2022.
longer.
I'm going to assume it's
But
going to go up in
again,
2023, but I mean, I'm
I
not saying
think
you should be
as
sucking people
Council
dry, but
Rivera
if
stated
I mean, we
tonight,
have
but
to.
the issue
2,800 is
really
ridiculous.
is around
But if 1,800 is what
how many
subsidized housing
people
is
we're
worth,
putting in
fully, like if
these
that would be the
different
full subsidy,
locations.
right? Like,
And
and that's not the
certainly
way the vouchers are
Big
even intended. It's
Guam
supposed to just
and
take
maybe
a
being on
a
the
good
floor
chunk off
is
of
far
whatever
better
the rent
than
is supposed to
being
be.
on the
Yeah.
streets.
I mean,
But
I'm
I
not
think
I'm not
that
keeping it at 15
we
because
can
these
do
tenants have been
better
here for over
with
5 years
offering
now.
people a safe,
So like
clean
I need to
place
just
to
based
sleep.
on
But
inflation
I
and all of that
also
stuff, my
think
expenses
that,
wise are
and I believe it was
and
Councilor
everything, but
King who said,
I'm not planning on gouging people because
that
we don't
we
need to
to
do that.
get our
Like
delegation
I'm looking at
on
maybe
board
22.
with us, and the stakeholders need
It's
to
a
be
nice
on
apartment.
board.
It's got
And all the
washer dryer hookups.
stakeholders need to be in the room. And
The
I know
utilities are
that the
really
city
low because
manager,
it's an on-demand hot
we've
water
had
heater and forced
many
hot air and air conditioning
conversations
system.
around this.
Um,
And one of the
and
things that we
brand new
struggle with here
dishwasher,
in the
washer
city
dryer
is
hookups.
really how many
Um,
homeless people do we currently
fully
have?
tiled
And how many
bathroom, all
people
sorts of
do
stuff
we
like that.
need
But
to find housing for? But
it's
again, I do think
I'm on the
that
west side
we
and
as
we have
a
plenty of
city,
street bars.
and
I
I
don't
don't
have one
believe
bedroom,
it's
sorry.
any of our goals, is
I've
to
only got the 2 units that
just put
are
people in
above
a
me.
place for the sake of taking them off the street. I think we
I
owe
wish
them
there were more
far
landlords
more
like me that
than
didn't
that.
gouge people
We need to make sure that they are living in
just
a
for gouging's sake.
dignified and again, a safe place. And when we're taking people, and Council Rivera and myself over the years have talked time and time and time again, because District 2 and District 4 really have bared the brunt of all of
Oh,
what has
George
taken
Seption, you should
place,
look up
you
the
know, with our homeless population
oh
and with
crud, what the
people
heck is it
who
called?
have challenges.
Eldritch Knot
And
for a tie.
no,
It's
District 2 has
freaking
never
awesome
said,
looking.
not in my
It's
backyard.
awesome. It's
And I
also
can
a
stand
pain in
here
the
and
ass to tie.
proudly say
You have to
that
go
and
up and
certainly
over and up and
challenge
over and
anyone
then down and
who would
through
ever
and then
think
tuck this little
differently.
bit up
This
through
isn't
here.
about not in my
It's
I've
backyard.
pulled
really
it off
awkward.
twice.
It's about about doing
It
the
impressed
right
my now
thing by
girlfriend the
those
first time we wore a
who
tie
are
around
most
each other.
vulnerable.
Or I wore
And
it.
I
whatever.
think it's time, and we've learned that throughout many of the other communities, they're also learning that you don't put, 75 or 100 people.
She looks like she's
in
wearing one of those
location.
flexible
That's not
chess
something
boards.
that's working and it's proven that
I
it
think they're
hasn't
flowers.
worked. And I really hope that we as a
so.
city engage
probably
all of
are.
our stakeholders, and definitely we need to
Yeah,
get
Geo
our
Hellraiser.
delegation involved.
That's how we party.
That could
Because
be fun.
as Councilor Toomey stated, and some others of my colleagues have stated, we have people who are coming in from other communities, who are coming into
Oh
Yes,
my
we have
God.
other people coming
We
in from
need
other
to figure
communities
this
because they're
out
tiny and can't
Worcester
handle it.
can't take care of all these
Of course,
other
they're going to be coming
communities
here.
by ourselves. And I think we need to
There's
recognize
hospitals
that,
here.
that we've
I saw a
become the
squirrel
place to go to.
walk all the
And
way down the
again,
street from
I'm
Holden
happy to
earlier in the
help
week,
whoever it
and
is
yeah,
that we can. But I think it's now
something needs to be
time
done.
that we have and engage, the city council along with our
Are we checking
delegation
IDs when
needs to
at
be part of
Worcester
this
Red Sox games to make
conversation.
sure
Where
everybody
are
is
we
from
headed,
Worcester?
and how is it that we can best serve?
They can't do that. No one would ever be able to go. They'd all have
Great
Grafton
order,
IDs.
Councilor Rivera, and I'm very happy to sign on. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Rose.
All right.
We can't have a residency requirement for the police department, but we have one for the unhoused. That's fantastic. Are you doing a headstand, Brian?
Creative.
Yeah.
When you drive throughout the city, whether it's on Route 20 or on the Southwest Cutoff in my district, or if you're looking in Council Hajia's district down in Stafford Street, we have a lot of empty manufacturing parcels. And I think that there's an opportunity to look at.
We
some
had
of those
closed
There's a lot
captioning
more
there.
empty manufacturing parcels
opportunity for
in
us in those build-to-suit
D4.
parcels
With
for
all
us
of those
to
empty
get creative
factories
and incentivize some of those property owners to turn over some of
that are
these
practically downtown.
infrastructure to create some elements of shelters and housing. I think that's something that we should explore too. It seems as if every time I'm driving by them, I'm envisioning in myself or imaging some opportunity there for some elements of housing. I've talked to a developer or two who own some of these parcels, who
You're
are
not
open
wrong.
to the idea or open to the conversation. So I think a big challenge that we have, of course, is land and space and infrastructure. And I think that as you drive around and you see some of these empty parcels, there's just, for me, it seems like a good opportunity for us to really get
Exactly,
creative
Mom.
and engaging, like everyone has referenced, our state delegation for some funding or some support in and around that. But again,
Yeah,
just
agreed,
wanna
Sean.
leave no
We
stone
need somebody to
unturned.
just drop a
Wanted
bunch
to
of money
offer
on
this
us
as
so
a
we can
potential
open up our own theater,
and
so we don't have to
resource,
do this on
for this
Zoom.
very, concerning
Bingo.
anxiety
We're open to your
issue
funding
for
sources.
all
Thank
of
you.
us in all of our districts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilor Hadjia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
A lot.
Thank you, Councilor
A
Rivera.
lot of
As an order,
asbestos.
I'd like to sign on
Yeah,
as well.
the answer is all of it.
I'd like to offer as a housing practitioner and someone who studies
It's the reason they're not being used.
practice.
Oh yeah, I mean you'd never pass environmental on any of those buildings.
Like to
If
challenge
you
the
did, they
notion
would have already
that
been bought by outside
having
investors
folks
to convert
in
into
permanent
market rate
supportive
housing.
housing in
They probably can't even
numbers like
encapsulate
in
it at
Blessed
that point.
Sacrament
It's
or
so
other areas.
It's not even.
vermiculite.
I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of it isn't even the asbestos;
Project
it's the
Room
amount
in
of metal and
California
chemical work
during
that was done in
COVID,
those
proved that when
factories,
you
especially the
convert
corridor Sean was
12
talking
housing
about
units to
over
supportive
in the
housing,
Webster Square
again,
side
the
of
key
Adele's
word here
district.
is not warehousing people and leaving them without resources.
There's also the
providing them with the dignified services that they
stretch
need.
of
to
area
not just house them
around
first, but to take in
where
consideration
the
that they need
Worcester
safe
6
shelter
fire
first and supportive
station is
services second. That's a
on
proven
Franklin.
model that works.
There's a lot of
Working really
empty
well at Blessed Sacrament, and I just want
concrete.
to say, as
You can
someone
see all the
who,
way through it buildings.
in that district,
Mm.
thank you, city
That's
manager
not.
and mayor and
I don't
everybody else
see
who's
anything
involved in that
happening with those
project.
anytime soon.
Oftentimes, even the district councilors have the will to have these to open opportunities for zoning and shelters and housing. We are still met with fierce opposition, fierce not in my backyard. And so I would challenge each of us as we're having these conversations with community members to educate ourselves, to open our hearts and compassion. But I also want to make my original point, which was that research, practice, data, and everything that housing experts tell us, including folks with lived
Hi, Molly.
experience, which is the most important
You just missed
thing,
Brian.
is that permanent supportive housing works. That's the most important
He
vision.
was
That's
raptured.
the ultimate vision. I would love to envision a world where we don't have shelters, where domestic violence victims or survivors aren't relegated to go to a family homeless shelter where their abuser is attacking them.
Is that you hitting the heart?
I'd like to envision a place where each of our neighborhoods have permanent supportive housing.
Somebody keeps hitting the heart on the Facebook.
Where there's trauma
I assumed it might, or I
all of them.
asked
But
if it was you.
until we get there,
Yenni.
as
Nope,
a council, as
not
district
me.
councilors, as the
I'm
elders,
just sitting here doing the theater thing of snaps.
I want to make sure that we are centering best practices that are informed by the lives of those that we're trying to support, by data and best practices.
Okay, so we'll
Actually,
send
it's
this
more
to me
poetry
as
thing.
amended, the official reports, and I think everybody wants to sign on as amended. Roll call.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
Councilor Gia?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Now my question is, how long is it going to take for the report to come back?
Mia?
Yes.
Councilor
Another 2 or 3 decades.
Councilor Rose?
Yeah.
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
I got to finish that
Through you, Mr. Chair,
research.
I had my hand
I'm
raised.
tracking down how many
Prior to that.
reports are missing and for how long.
Ooh, we're back to Kate.
One of the things that was brought up was the fact that there aren't so many landlords that are involved with affordable housing units. And there is a landlord incentive program that the Worcester Community Housing Resource works on.
That landlord incentive program is shit.
This is up to 1,500 the first unit, and up to 1,000 for each additional. And 1-bedroom units, there's a signing bonus for 2,500. WCHR provides problem-solving assistance as renter stabilizes housing, and there are flexible funds to help with unit repairs, etc. So there's a program out there.
Exactly, Tara.
But I think we should get out there to the general public, the property owners.
That's a scary dog.
Because they may not know about this. I know it was tough trying to find the information myself. So
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
So take 11C. You want to do C and D together? Or? Okay.
I'll go, girl.
Request manager work with Commissioner of Transportation Mobility to consider activating the traffic signal priority system for buses. TSP would ensure less time idling, faster completion of routes, increased frequency, and more reliability for the Worcester Regional Transit Authority.
Do you think people are going to respect bus lanes? We can't even get people to respect bike lanes.
Mobility provides City Council with a
We also don't have the road space for dedicated bike lanes on most city roads. Like, could you imagine trying to put a bus lane in on Pleasant Street coming from downtown towards Park Ave? Like, there isn't the width on half of the road.
From temporary to permanent.
Well, so
You
I
do
mean, like,
parking on both sides and a lane and a bike lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You don't
I'll
have the
just make some
space,
very
and then
quick
everyone
points
complains
about
about
this.
losing parking spaces.
These are two really quick
Yeah.
and fairly inexpensive ways
Yeah.
of
Because you would also need to add in a bike lane.
ways that our administration, our city as a
It's so
municipality,
fascinating that every time people talk about changes like that, that's the first thing that you see is how much people that live, like all these people that moved in downtown to these nice loft apartments,
this was inspired by a
like
writer who was
just
here. Adam and I took a ride
kvetching about
RT bus
parking.
down
And it's like, well, that's step one in
Right.
anything that we want to do.
conference, and he asked me if I knew about this, and I obviously
Sad to report to everybody that Bryan caught what Kate has been suffering with and also no longer has his body.
I've been discombobulated, guys.
we told you he got raptured, but he's here in spirit.
Mayor Petty goofed me and boofed me.
It's a software and hardware tweak that can be made. I spoke to Commissioner.
What if we had
on this as well.
not really bus lanes, but like, say the front of the buses would be open and we would have like a plow system on the front. And if you wanted to get on the bus, you would just be walking in the street, like, and the bus would just come by and scoop you up.
Like a cow catcher on a train?
Yeah, exactly.
Hell yeah.
It would be padded though. I mean, you don't want to hurt anybody. That way the buses don't slow down traffic, doesn't really impede anything, and you get your free bus ride. I would probably take the bus a lot more often if it just snuck up on me and snatched me off the ground.
That's not a bus ride. That's an adventure.
Yeah.
Something that we should do more often, and I give all those three members of the council really good credit for getting some really amazing information out of
And
the
if you do it like a
WRTA.
specifically
One of the
gnarly
mentions
trick
that
into
there's
the
$22
bucket, they
million
give you extra free,
that they're sitting on that they could
right?
be
I guess.
using
I don't know.
to
I didn't think that
Oh,
one
yeah.
through.
No, you get a
why
free
I
snack.
mentioned that is that
There it
these
is.
two orders clearly can be supported
Yeah,
by
you get Terra Blues like JetBlue.
reliable system benefits all of us.
I remember a
Intersection
while
issue,
back there was
economic
somebody
development,
trying to do
helps our visitors, helps our residents,
not a double-decker
and it
bus, but
helps
a
us meet our
trolley,
climate
like a
goals.
Worcester trolley.
Wasn't that Ben White?
Was it Ben White?
Yeah, Ben White was the one.
No, I think
Yeah,
it was Woo Ride.
yeah, that was Ben White.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
I
just
think
let
it's a
that
good
sink in
idea.
your brain, Yenny.
Yeah, I
I had an
completely
idea to
forgot
do
that
that
he was
because
attached to Woo Ride.
I used to do bus tours in Boston, and I had an idea to get one out here and call it Whist Tours.
Oh, see, that's a way better name. God damn. Dude,
But yeah, there was supposed
trademark
to be
that
trolleys
shit.
for the ball games at minimum.
But I also rise to say
I believe
this,
that's where
that
the route was. It was
as a
all
result of our
downtown
recent
through
meeting,
the Canal
appreciate
District.
Council Hex GI mentioning. It became
Why
clear
does
that
he
we
Nice.
need to
yes, say,
set
why
an
does he
outside
emphasize the
intent
X in
as
her
the city
name?
of Worcester moves forward.
Did any of you guys ever
WRTA
catch wind of the it was never a serious thing, but the J-Pods idea that was floating around City Hall for a while? So
J-Pods?
when Jake Sanders worked at City Hall, he discovered this company that made this thing called J-Pods, which is based, if you think of like a gondola, like a Swiss like skiing resort, it's like it was like a cable monorail system, and he took full credit for it because it was a J-Pod, so it was obviously named after Jake. The stupidest thing in the world, but was probably the most viable solution to mass transit that like you could come up with in a city, to Yenny's point, it's so dense that without taking thousands of acres of land by eminent domain, like you're just not going to make the room on Highland Street to have bus lanes, bike lanes. It doesn't. Everything's going to be one way if we're going to do that. We have nothing but one-way streets.
We don't make hiring and firing decisions.
But yeah, look up J-Pods. They get video on their website. They
I'm
are
working on it.
amazing. It was like the Simpsons monorail, but next level.
That's what it looks like. I have it. I have an overlay coming up.
We just need hover cars that can stack.
There's a company that's bringing a flying motorcycle to market this year, so get ready, Worcester. That's I am saving my nickels currently.
If I do a quick math,
Yeah, there they are, J-Pods.
Good God.
I wonder when I look at the buses, drive by and they're empty, or sometimes there's a few people on there. We might be able
Yeah,
to
see,
give
those
them
won't
an Uber
work
or taxi
here
ride less than that.
because we don't have the ability to even put in those stanchions.
And
It's
how
not
well
wide
the
enough.
WRTA is doing. Actually, it's
We'll
quite
do them on the
well.
rooftops,
It says it's very
or
inefficient,
hang them from the light
very
poles.
well at all. So we need to continue this dialogue. We need
Yeah, and
continue to
completely
entertain orders.
divide
Guys,
every neighborhood you put it through, just like
the
the
chairman's orders, but at the end of the day, we need to have
I
a
say we take a bunch of that
realization
ARPA
we
funding,
can only
give it to
control
Bob
so
from
much,
Hotel Vernon.
and unless
Let's
and
get a
until
fleet of
conversation
horses, and we
resolves
solve our problem with horse-drawn carriages.
WRTA,
Did I tell you about my experience at the horse-drawn garages this past weekend?
No.
I thought I mentioned in that text thread that we have that. So there was a funeral procession that came out of Holden this weekend. It was led by a horse-drawn hearse. It was very fancy. This thing took an hour to get by the house.
I guess, unfortunately.
I've never. I mean, I was just sitting on my couch, and it didn't impact my life at all. But I was starting to get like really, really angry at how long this thing was taking to get by. It must have snarled traffic throughout the entire city for 2 hours.
Was it a horse funeral or?
No, the horse was still alive. It was
Oh, good.
yeah, they were.
That would
fine.
have taken forever.
Yeah, but I think I told you guys the first car back of the line, no joke, contract Amazon delivery driver, and that's all I can think is imagine getting fired from your job delivering iPhone cases because you're stuck behind some rich asshole who wanted to have a horsey ride on his way to St. John Cemetery.
Yeah.
we can't do underground tubes. There's too much bedrock.
Brendan, that definitely did not. I did not fully understand and comprehend the magnitude of your text when that came through. Yeah, that'd be fucking horrendous, and that's exactly what they lose their job over.
Yeah. Jeff Bezos does not care that you're stuck behind horses. You should have figured it out.
Yeah, you should have gone there sooner.
Made a decision not to staff that bus company.
Candy says, let's not go to Walmart.
I love where the captions just shot us. Anyone who's she's just talking about grocery shopping. She's really angry about grocery shopping right now.
And I'm even giving them the CARES Act money. I'm giving them every dime of the CARES Act money, even though they haven't
Thanks, Yenni.
spent it all. But to think about that there's $22 million.
I always have the links,
and we don't have the decency,
or at least usually.
to staff that bus company so that our riders are not stuck out there.
The amount of tweets I see about, like, every day, I feel like I see them from the WRTA being like, these lines are not going to be running on time today because we don't have enough drivers. And that happens on an almost daily basis at this point. And it's usually like 5 or 6 lines that aren't working.
Real eye opener to think that there's zero regard for them too, by the way.
Do I genuinely don't know. Do you need a CDL to be a bus driver?
You need some type of certification that's beyond a basic driver's license.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a true CDL though.
That's probably something the city should be looking at. I don't know what Candy is talking about, all this money going to grocery shopping, but if she maybe brought up the idea of putting some of those ARPA dollars towards training people, we would have a qualified workforce that could actually do those jobs.
Somebody goes home sick in case a bus breaks down. So there's,
I think I've brought it up on this show before, but there's a guy named Darius McCollum from New York City who's an autistic man who has been arrested for stealing New York City buses over 100 times.
Wow.
And every time he steals it, he drives the route perfectly.
I'm very confident.
He knows he's done it with subways. He's done it with buses. He's crazy about it. They won't give him a license. Clearly this guy just lives for this.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating that there are people like that in this world that live for the type of job that want him, that want to do that job. Let him have the damn job. He was in prison. He actually did time in prison.
And when they can sit
I would be curious to hear how many, if the city taking on the bus contract or its own buses had any impact on the lack of drivers from the WRTA. I haven't looked at wage parity or whatnot between the two.
From what I heard from Tracy, via like Twitter and various like messages and posts and stuff, it seemed like there wasn't much
good
from WRTA that moved over. It was Durham folks that moved over.
Awesome.
Good hard look at this contract and when it expires.
Yes, there is a link.
Because we as a city and the residents here in the city,
you'll only see our police officers' face though.
Far more than what we're getting right now.
Because he points the camera at himself.
We've got that bus company so lean that if a person gets sick, their attitude was basically, oh, well, that's wrong. That's wrong.
Tell him, Candy.
We have our work cut out for us. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Councilor Russell.
Mr. Chairman, we have to do all that over again now because for the last 2 hours because the recording just started, I guess. So.
Georgeception.
Mr. Chairman, my friend and colleague, Councilor Merrill Carlson, kept saying we. And I understand where that comes from, and it comes from the frustration of we as a community and we as a state and all that kind of stuff. But I want to clarify one point.
We also means yes in French.
It's not we, this city government, because this city government doesn't appoint the bus company, the authority. Is that correct through you, Mr. Chairman, to the manager?
Mr. Manager.
I know we have a representative on.
Yes, I believe it also means yes in French. Thank you.
Correct. We're one of many communities and towns that are represented in that regional transportation authority.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, through you again to the manager.
I wasn't far off.
What role? I mean, we can sit here and bang on the table and complain and advocate as much as we can on behalf of our residents and the residents of even the surrounding communities that utilize this service. But the ultimate point is do we have any clout? Can we call our representative in? Can we specifically ask do we have any specific clout as a city government, whether it be the city manager or whether it be this council? something we can do that can be concrete, that can say, this is what we demand to do, and we're not gonna take this anymore.
Through the chair to the council, the thing that we have the ability to do is work with our representative individual on the board in representing our city collective kind of vision and what we want as a city. Fare free, whether it is better systems, better signage, better response, better communication. There was a few months back where Councilor Bergman talked about marketing and putting out that people didn't know that Fare Free was there.
Yeah,
So it's
I
my
mean,
job
South
to work
Mom.
with representative,
I,
and just today
I
at
thought about
4:30,
that. I
had a
didn't hear any
phone call
table banging.
with that individual and talking through about
You know what we could do is threaten to take the new WRTA hub down to the far into the canal district by eminent domain,
board members is very similar to the council.
sell it
They have the ability
to a profit for a profit to a housing developer, and then with their funds start a trust fund to start our own bus company. We'll just put that on the table and see how the WRTA reacts.
We have leverage as a
Brendan,
city
just
to
throwing
get
this
along
out there.
with board members
How many
to deliver
pickleball
our
courts do you think that WRTA building can house?
Inside, oh, at least 40.
That's where I hear all the money is.
They're
Right
small,
now.
yeah.
There's also a different level of
All the revenue will go to locally sourced and funded public transportation.
We take
Could even
off the
expand the
R.
dog park.
There you go. We just take off that little hook, so it would be the Worcester pickleball
Yeah.
time area.
all of us here as a
I'm
city.
sold.
But also, what are the things that they're looking to do that I can be able to communicate back? And that relationship is extremely
But yeah,
important.
I'm with you.
That's the relationship that I right now am trying
Let's
to build
let's
with the current
have a
director to see what's happening
city
over
run
there,
or
so that I can be able to
personal run.
Potentially influence some of the conversations that we're having, not only in this body here, but also through the community to get to the director.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, again, to the administration, is our one vote just one vote, or is it a weighted vote that has an awful lot more clout? And you know what percentage if it is a weighted vote?
Well, y'all are talking about the guy who likes stealing buses. In this must have been senior year of high school, maybe the year after, so around 94, 95, at the 7-Eleven at the corner of June and Chandler. It's probably 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had a buddy annihilated. And the T&G delivery van pulled in. The guy went in to drop off some papers, but he was also buying some lottery tickets. And my friend didn't say a word. He was just staring at the van, and then out of nowhere, just hopped in it and took off. And he was gone for a solid half hour. And when he came back, he had actually dropped off some papers at places they weren't supposed to be, but like the bundles of papers. And then the police were getting there right when he was getting back. So he just ran. The next day, he was just like, dude, I've always wanted to drive one of those trucks. So, I mean, I kind of get what this guy is going for here. Like, I mean, if you're a kid and you've always looked at like commercial vehicles, like, oh, what would it be like to drive one of those? And then you find yourself, maybe you're a little high, maybe you've been drinking a little bit too much, and be like, yeah, I'm going for a ride. That guy made the mistake of leaving the keys in the ignition.
Tonight about this, and I think.
Did he ever get in trouble for it?
No, this person has gone on to like an absolutely incredible career, and I've even said what he did, it would out them. So I'm not going to bother doing it. But yeah,
incredible.
Yeah, he just wanted to drive the truck. It really wasn't malicious.
City manager.
It was Joe Petty.
That board also has, as mentioned, decision-making powers as relates to the director. And it makes me question, where have they been? What are they doing?
Also, I couldn't comment before, but I believe for a bus you need CDL Class B with a passenger endorsement.
From those board meetings. I know we have a representative there.
So the same thing the buses need for the school buses.
Mr. Manager.
Through Chair the council, no.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to make a motion.
Is that true, Brian, that you want to drive the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile that badly?
Desperately, I was with it, and I thought about stealing it.
Should have drank more that morning.
Those little hot dog soldiers are pretty tough to get around.
We would bring
hot dog soldiers. You don't want to apply to drive it around for a year? That'd be an interesting experience.
Legislation and
signups are open right now, everybody.
And would certainly suggest that that's perhaps an
you plan a comedy tour around where your Wienermobile is going to be.
I would like to make a motion additionally.
Come see my Wiener tour.
The Great Hot Dog Safari.
The appropriate committee chairman at the State House for issues pertaining to transportation.
What were you saying, Yenni?
And
I said you have to offer CBT.
transportation. I think it's
course.
time that we engage on that level in addition to our state delegation.
He'll be court mandated when he gets back from the
when
tour.
you think about public transportation, I've said it time and time again. Folks have heard me say.
You want to drive it, Gio, and not sit in it?
A social worker of a couple decades.
Long
and
things
when you think about what
freak
was
me
mentioned
out.
earlier,
Back in my
people on the
band
bus,
days, I almost ripped
about the
off our
folks
trail
around on that
hitch
bus
because I
because
jackknifed the
it was not
trailer
reliable transportation.
off the van like an
Perhaps they
idiot,
didn't get
trying to
to
back in and turn
their
around.
loved one who needs assistance. Perhaps that child didn't get home from their after-school job in time.
Ew, no thanks. You just want to
Perhaps
drive it.
Someone
Is it
didn't
empty?
get the treatment or the appointment that they needed. These are people matters and people problems that are exacerbated through what I feel is a lack of prudent administrative oversight, in addition to perhaps a lack of maybe more pushing by the public. And I know the public's been doing a lot. Our committees have been doing a lot. Our elected officials, the municipal level, the mayor, the administration. But I encourage folks to continue to show up. As we think about the housing that's coming on board, we think about our inclusion.
And they're not allowed to turn off the ignition, right? That's part of their whole shtick.
There'll be some
The part of this conversation that breaks my heart is if they were genuinely serious about what they're talking about, like put in the context of like public safety. If we didn't have, and it's probably going to happen soon with police department and fire department because they're not getting the number of applicants they would like for each academy class, and eventually those numbers are going to hit. So the next time contracts come up, you're going to see a salary bump because they're not going to want to deal with the public complaining about there being a shortage of police officers. But like clearly they don't take this as seriously if the first response out of somebody's mouth is, hey, what are we paying and should we be paying more?
WRTA being obsolete.
And I know it's an authority, right? It's not completely in Worcester's purview, but Worcester is the biggest member of the authority, and they should be having that, be the one starting that conversation. If people don't want the job, it's probably not because we know there are people in the world who think driving buses is fun. They just don't think it's fun doing it for a job.
Right.
I think one of the other aspects of it is that the benefits are crap.
Sure. So fix it. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
like that's actually a really easy problem to solve. Easier than creating a bus lane where we don't have room for them, right? Like pay people more, treat people better.
Right.
And don't be shocked if when you don't, they don't want to do the job.
But we also need to fix the fact that we don't have enough lines and we don't like the hub and spoke model without a wheel makes no sense. We need either multiple hubs. There's a thing one of the grad students at Clark is working on as his thing. He's coming up with a report on multiple hubs and where you could place them and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, but you put lines wherever.
We just got one that went around the city.
Sure, but if you did. But if you did that, you still don't have the drivers to take care of the line. So I'm just saying, like, you want the people there to do a job, then you're going to have to treat them better. And it's the only thing I haven't heard anyone mention tonight was all I was getting at.
Yeah. It very rarely comes into the conversation.
Okay, so that will be in.
I think part of that is the regional aspect of it. Like, we don't have any control over them.
Right, but
We've got Gary Rosen on the board, and that's about it.
But every member of the authority, again, you pick a community that's part of the WRTA region and find me a community that won't bump the salaries of their police officers, firefighters, whatever, if they were having a lack in finding qualified candidates to do that job.
Yes, and again, I just want to thank Council Bergman and the committee for the work they did.
No, it's a good point, Brendan.
So, good job. Okay, we are on 11E. An effort to assist homeowners, and especially senior citizens, stay in their homes and provide the much-needed additional housing units. Request manager draft a zoning ordinance amendment that allows by special permit in all zones an extraordinary extra dwelling.
Yeah, Bo Bergman, authorities are weird quasi-government organizations that while they do, their salaries do pay into the overall government, like state pension systems and whatnot. Typically, things like benefits, salary, and whatnot are typically also out of the purview of government as a whole. So yeah, they're kind of like private organizations that pay into public systems from a benefits perspective, but it doesn't mean that their salaries are necessarily going to be on par. We do have like the prevailing wage laws and whatnot that still impact the authorities, but I'm also going to guess that's not something that the prevailing wage for bus drivers is probably not where it should be, considering we don't have enough bus drivers.
If I remember correctly, Durham's prices were, or Durham's wages were 23 an hour. And if I remember hearing what Tracy said over a year ago correctly, that the city bus, the WRTA buses paid less.
Yeah, and I mean, the Durham number is in striking distance of what most fast food restaurants are paying people to come in now for part-time work. So again, it's just not on par with what they should be making.
Almost half of the zones right now in the city of Worcester.
Last time I went to a Five Guys, it was $19.34 plus a signing bonus and benefits is what they were offering for part-time work.
No in all manufacturing zones, no in single family zones. Two families to these small apartment uses. Mr. Chairman, in my role in the real estate business that I've done for over 30 years, many times I've sat with homeowners, some elderly, some just average folks, who have said to me, I wish I had an alternative to stay in this home, to stay here and to generate a little bit of income to help pay the bills. How many of us have gotten calls?
Yeah, that's why I was mentioning earlier. I'm kind of surprised that he's bringing this up in the way that he is. It's I actually think it could be a great idea. It's just I know we're so far behind from especially from a fire perspective when it comes to safety based on where the state fire marshal would like us to be, with the number of wood frame structures that we have, the lack of mandated sprinklers and whatnot. The idea of I don't know. The idea of allowing basement apartments and whatnot gets weird really quick unless you're
talking about the use
I
of
don't
the
know.
carriage house.
It opens a weird can of worms.
Talking about the use
I mean, there still has to be two primary modes of egress.
Yep.
But like one of the apartments that my husband had before he got married was by Clark, and it was a basement apartment that had sliding doors onto what was technically a porch, but the ground level was like, if I was standing, it was here. So how am I supposed to get myself out of that? And then there was like a whole like fence above that, right across from the ball field. If you're coming from Park Ave onto
use a little portion of it to create another
by the car wash.
Only if they're an
There's the field on the right, and then the big brick building on the left as it splits. It's that one, and there's basement apartments in that.
Of young folks that might need a place to come back to move into.
There's no second exit out of that building for those apartments.
Even in some neighborhoods that are
The part that he's talking about now, if it's detached structures, that I think makes perfect sense. Like I would Mo brought this up a couple years ago. Like I have a detached garage. I would love to be able to turn that into an apartment, like do it right, bring it completely up to code. Shit, I'd move in a half a dozen shipping containers in my backyard next week and start, designing those to code if I could rent them out.
And then we gotta start calling you the governor.
Well, or maybe I'd just start a cult. But either way, it's going to be awesome.
When she was talking, that she's never seen so many
Leader Melican.
older folks. Never seen so many homeless older folks. She said we need to house individuals, and she's right.
I mean,
and this
I've
is
got
one way to do it.
a couple houses down from me that meet exactly what he's talking about, but they already had tenants.
To encourage owner occupants to stay in the home, not to sell to investors.
The person that they were renting to during COVID were not able to pay the full amount of rent, and they almost couldn't pay for their groceries that month.
They're doing this now, but they're just not inspected.
And they've got 2 units that they rent out, just like I do. It's not.
Mr. Chairman, I will close with this. I know there are some people in this building that will say this should go in with
Having units does not stop the problem.
take into consideration with the whole process.
It just helps.
Mr. Chairman, as I said in my beginning comments, that's a long
I guess
process.
I think my frustration, Yenni, is that this conversation fits into a lot of the conversations we're having about housing and the conversations we were having earlier in just this meeting when it regards to the unhoused. We have a bigger issue in dealing and figuring out a real plan and how to deal with single family zoning. So we can use existing space to increase the number of units that are available in the city on the land that actually exists, not make-believe land or trying to figure out creative ways to stick people in factories or whatever Shaun was talking about earlier. Like that's, Attell is really good about talking about housing experts in terms of, supportive housing. On the other side of it, housing experts always talk about and there seems to be universal agreement that the best way to have a stable long-term system of housing is to be constantly building new above market rate luxury housing. And over time, eventually that trickles down. It sounds gross, but that's how housing has always worked. And not just here, in most European countries too. It's folks that are making a working class wage might not be living in the best housing in the city, and but it's stable and it's up to code and it's not dangerous to anybody, and it's not just this shell game of where can we stick somebody this winter so the people on the west side don't complain about feeling uncomfortable at a red light.
Just to think about the possible consequences that probably should be addressed.
You take my neighborhood, your neighborhood. I mean, there's no shortage of GI Bill era ranches and whatnot. You took any 4 of those parcels adjacent to each other, and now you have room for a 12-unit condominium complex. You're increasing density. You're helping out the small pockets of businesses that exist in each one of these neighborhoods. But overall, you're actually creating housing.
Having 4 more people. And lastly, and perhaps the city solicitor could help us with this down the road.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that Worcester, in terms of overall growth, has been so focused on big business growth rather than growing what's already currently here.
These are the things we need to be answered. I don't say
And it's kind of if you take a look at, say, the amount of land that the ballpark takes up, if we had something that was even like a strip mall type thing, the amount of rent we would be getting from all of those, not rent, the amount of tax revenue we would be getting from all of those businesses and the property and the amount of people that would be employed by small businesses, bringing up local businesses and stuff like that, would bring so much more to the community in terms of space value.
Yeah. And also wouldn't be $160 million deficit.
Someone who had my father living with me when he was here in an in-law apartment. I know it's important.
I really hate being able to say I told you so.
About the safety elements of this. We know that this is going on.
But so many of us saw that coming.
If this
the only part that really bums me out now is the access doors for like music and whatnot. Like I hate baseball. Like I have no use for it at all. But the idea of being able to use that venue as a venue for other things, even now without music, like it blows me away that it's not open every night of the weekend in particular, as just a place to hang out. Like it's a cool venue. Like there should
open up all those restaurants.
Yeah. We are at a crisis.
I agree, Brendan.
Well, the problem with opening up all those restaurants is you got to get the restaurants to agree to staff them.
I get
when
it.
they're like accessory locations.
Off season, open them up as pop-ups and whatnot. Just
what
have
they
stuff
said.
going on. Yeah.
When they first brought that ballpark in, that whole back street that they took was supposed to be the public lane that was supposed to stay open year round and was supposed to bring in businesses, just like what Brendan's describing. It
There
would
was supposed to be
be,
a fresh food market too.
Yeah.
it would be friggin' rad to go hang out through there.
I'm not quite
The
sure. how
concourse
long
with all the
it
seating and
takes
whatnot
to
is
get this
just
done.
awesome for
I
hanging
feel
out.
like we
Like again, I have
discussed
no
this
interest in
back.
baseball, but I would hang out on that concourse all night long. And it, yeah, even in the winter, bring in the heat lamps that every restaurant has now. It's just a cool venue to go and chill. I mean, that should actually be our first social consumption venue in the city. Like, just let people come in and smoke weed, open air, heat lamps, whatever.
So
Well, that's the stuff that makes it feel like a scam because
Mr. Chair, I have my hand
you
raised.
Council Toomey, go
make
ahead.
all these promises and
Thank
like
you, Mr.
sell
Chair.
the
I've
city
actually,
on it
signed on to
in
this.
these ways of like, oh, multi-purpose, blah blah
Council
blah,
also said that I
all
had
that thing, and
spoken
then
about this several years
seemingly
ago,
never having the
several
intention to
times,
use it that way. And
about
like, if you got caught
the
off guard
heights,
with it,
addition.
then
I
that's
you
bad
know,
too.
my
But
own
like,
daughter had showed me.
they should be
They
bringing
have
more
these,
value to the city in the
nanobots,
baseball off season, and it's just simply
and
not.
that they're
Yeah.
actually units
It's just
that are
an
built
obstacle for the
that
rest of the year.
can
I mean,
assist
the playing field. I mean, someone just mentioned
board
sledding.
members
It made me
that
think
are
about it. I drove by
older,
the ice rink
that are
last week, and
brave,
there was like a line out
um,
to Front Street
if they have any
of people just
mobility
like
issues,
freezing in line. Could like
they have
turn the entire ballpark
and
into a skating
it's
rink
really
in the
a
winter,
support
and like
system
now
for
you don't ever have to worry about lines again. You
those
can have the
families
entire
who
city ice skating at
their
once if they want to.
The
and that
lines,
being said,
the lines
you
of
know,
French
all of
Street
the
are
other
more
reasons
about the
that
skate
my
rentals
colleagues
and less
have
about the
mentioned,
space on the ice,
having these
truthfully. But
opportunities and looking at housing differently,
no, I
especially
mean, what
where
you brought up
it's
about
such a
having the
crunch
open air
and
consumption spot,
we're an
like
older
it would
city
actually
and
work
there's
to
different
do that
needs
as a
today than there
one-day
were
event
before.
because
I
they
think
already
that
have
we
the
really need
gated
to take a
area.
look
They
at
have
all
the
of this.
designated area. You
I
would just
know
need
that
buy-in from
there
Dr.
actually
Charles.
was
Right.
A white paper put
I'm sure he's a
together
big
on
weed
the
guy.
city of zoning for
Yeah, he looks
accessory
like it.
dwelling units by,
Oh, she
Most
mentioned the
by some
buzzword white paper.
organizations. So it's been
most white,
discussed,
yeah,
and I
most
think
white
that's
people,
from
most dentists are.
Massachusetts. So I think there's a lot that can be done and move. We can move forward with this quickly. I think we need to do it, and I look forward to working with all of my colleagues on seeing some progress made on this. Thank you.
Okay,
I
so
don't
if anybody
understand
wants
the
to sign
whole
on,
like pods
do
thing.
that.
We don't
Go to
have
this
enough
to the manager, and
land
the reports.
to do tiny villages.
Then request of Council Bergman.
It
looking at the
needs to
issues,
be
to address,
apartment building style,
we will
like the other
the
housing complexes,
roll call.
to do permanent supportive
Yes.
housing in a
Order.
meaningful
Yes.
way that has enough units to actually make a difference. 14 buildings in a tiny village
Yes.
out on Stafford Street is not going to make a dent on a damn thing.
Next item is 11F. Request the manager review.
Great
the
project,
Melican
but
Act
pointless
to
in
reduce
terms of
traffic
the overall problem.
fatalities and provide city council with a report regarding plans
Yeah.
to utilize elements of the act to reduce traffic fatalities in the city. Council Toomey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, we've been talking about, you know, so many
This is making her
pedestrian
emotional.
deaths and safety and vehicular
I think her voice is
accidents,
just going.
speed limit.
No, I know,
limits,
I'm
et
just kidding.
cetera. And this bill, this act that was signed into
I
law
mean, it could have
by
been
Governor
emotional.
Baker actually addresses a lot of those issues and also identifies who vulnerable road users are.
No, but we have the most expensive minor league stadium in the country.
Without a
And it's also
community
the smallest.
agreement that they dodged and never
off of
signed.
Grafton Street, there was a terrible accident with a person who was hit by a truck on a side road. Safer speed limits, standardized crash reporting, and rear red light requirements for bicycle operators. So, among many other things. So, I think that this is something
Rear
that
red
we
light
certainly
for
use
bicycle
to assist,
operators?
some of our traffic issues here in the city.
There's a
years
new
ago,
bill
I
that
know I
just got
talked about
signed
on certain
by the
roads,
governor's
we needed
office
to
just
take a
before
look
Baker
at
left.
trying to reduce
That
the
changed up a
speed
bunch of
limit,
stuff.
and
You now
we
have
couldn't
to
because
pass
of the state rules and
with
regulations.
you have to
This
have
bill
give
enables
4
cities
feet
and
to any
towns
cyclist
to
on the side of the
to look
road
at
instead
their
of
own
I think
individual
previous
issues
was 2
and
feet or
address
something like
them as such.
that. And
So I look
there's
forward
like
to
a
having
whole
a look
bunch
at
of
that.
little things that it updates
Thank
and
you.
fixes.
So now to the manager. Roll call.
And it provides a provision for cities to be able to put in residential zones that have 25 miles an hour instead of 30, without having to go through giant hoops.
Council Rose?
Yes.
Council Russell?
Yes.
Council Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty?
Yes.
No, he
Next
wouldn't.
request,
Why would he
manager
do that? He likes her.
Council with a report and update concerning the status of 2 Gage Street, including information as to the status of any violations associated with the property and/or property owner. Council Councilor House.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I rise tonight because 2 Gage Street, as I think a lot of us know, lot of violations at Gage Street. Someone lost their life at Gage Street. And I'm hearing that, and the neighbors are hearing, that this individual is rebuilding on 2 Gage Street. So some of the questions that I certainly have is, I also understand that this individual is in court. I understand that the city has this individual in court.
Do
and I'm
anybody know what
just
she's talking
trying
about?
to understand
2
how
Gage
is
Street's
it
where they had the
that
fire,
you have an individual
and they're rebuilding there, and there's
basically,
some pretty
there's a
significant
life that
concerns
was
about
lost,
him
and there were several
not
people who were
rebuilding
displaced.
to code. He's
A
not
lot
pulling
a lot of
permits,
the neighbors
all sorts of issues.
who live in that community.
Thanks,
And to
Jenny.
hear that he has been given a permit to rebuild in the city of Worcester before any of that has been cleared, I guess I'm standing here tonight to say, how does this happen? How does this happen? Because
It happens
I
because
think,
people like you drop the
at
ball,
least in my
Candy,
mind,
and focus your attention
that
on other
this
things to the detriment
individual
of
certainly
city
should be
services.
showing the city of Worcester and the people whose lives were
Unfortunately, I
destroyed
think Gage
and
Street more falls
devastated
under
and
what
lost
inspection services is supposed
because
to
of
be
his
doing, but didn't have the
behavior.
staffing to do so before they did
And
staffing.
for all of
But
the
I mean, that
neighbors
comes
who
down to
live on
priorities
Gage
too,
Street,
right?
that surrounding area,
It's like I was saying earlier with the
they're now
buses. Like it's
calling
been
me and
since the
saying
start
that
of
they're
COVID now, we've been
petrified that this
wildly
guy is
understaffed at
going to be
inspectional
able to
services.
build
Like the
something
shuffling
that
that's
is
going
going
on Mead
to
Street for
then
inspections
put
is
all of their
not okay.
lives at risk. So
I
I'm
mean, we
asking
lost
for the city,
during COVID the
and
entire
asking the
engineering department.
administration
The
to
traffic
come back
engineering
and
department
let us
was
know
gone,
what is
and
it,
they still are not back up to
what
full
is the
staff because they all
status
left for
of
private
this
positions because they were getting
individual?
paid like
What is the
double.
status of the other properties that this individual
We
owns?
just don't have the funds to
And
pay a lot of people what they're
have
worth
we, in
anymore.
fact, and I believe we have, because I have
This
copies
is
of
unrelated to Gage Street, but I don't think any counselor should be able to say, I rise tonight without being hoisted up into the air like Gene Simmons when they play God of
what
Thunder.
has happened there.
And actually just they have to hang from the rafters so they
That would
can.
be
We
my
can do fire and
request.
fireworks too, but there at least has to be some theatrics tonight. She really just
Do
stood
we
up.
do we get
She
to see
didn't
them
rise.
do the tongue thing with the blood pouring out?
I mean, that's on each individual counselor how they're
Okay.
gonna play it, but
I
she
would
didn't
I would
rise.
prefer
She just stood.
Yes.
The
I would
amount
prefer
of Kiss concerts I went to as a child because my father was obsessed,
Mm.
I can literally exactly picture what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's an important moment as a child when you see that for the first time too. He's like flying. He actually rises. Gene Simmons takes that role seriously. Candy phoned it in. It's
Plus, I
bullshit.
feel like Candy's more of a star child.
As well over $60 million.
She's Peter Criss at best.
You want the NMO, we can file it.
Speaking of Star Child, I saw George Clinton at the House of Blues 2 weeks ago. 81 years old, man. He still got it. It's wild. Makes no sense.
Yes.
So happy he's okay. He looked like he was pretty rough there for a while.
Yes.
I think this is the last official tour they're doing as Parliament Funkadelic, but
Yes.
yeah.
Traffic and parking, 13A and 13B, motions accept, roll call.
But the current Star Child is third generation P-Funk, which was just wild to me. Like, imagine being raised in that universe. Like, nothing can make any sense.
Yes. Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Talk about boofing.
Yes.
The last meaningful non-roll call thing is the lifeguard, and that'll be up next after the roll call.
Season by the way of paying for the lifeguard certification programs.
I guess they did the roll calls all together instead of in
Transportation to their
batches.
training in a way that is comparable to other municipalities in the state. Councilor Rose.
Mr. Chairman, yesterday we had a park subcommittee.
And his
where
voice
we
sounds like he's
spoke
chewing
at
glass.
length about all of the things that Assistant Commissioner Antonelli is doing to recruit lifeguards. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to file this order, please. Thank you.
The motion is to file.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
Councilor G.A.?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Merrill Carlson? Councilor Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
surprised this is getting filed even like. 'Cause
It was a
basically the
long meeting.
information is for them to consider it.
It was a really long
Yes,
meeting
they're already
last night.
doing it, but
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
There was a lot of public testimony. A few current and former lifeguards
I'd like
showed up
to,
last night. There was a lot that went on in that meeting that I feel like they're all confident. If anything is going to happen, Rob is going to have to take control of it. He won't do anything meaningful with it, but he still needs to take control of it.
Relative to requiring AEDs, automated
he is
external
so tired of
defibrillators
that
was
role.
implemented. I had filed an order on that several
He
years
was
ago.
tired of that role when I
West
first
City
really was
Management
talking to him
Plan
in
to implement
2015,
the requirement
2016
of
about the dog
AEDs
park.
at all ball fields
He was just,
citywide. And I'd like to add,
it feels like
Councilor
he is phoning it in
Rose
still,
onto this order, who's been
like for a
very
decade now.
involved, very active with some folks in the
Rob
community,
Antonelli.
and
Oops, sorry.
also, looking to do this. And I actually had filed this.
So I don't think we should get on anybody about phoning it in, okay?
That we had with the.
He originally had a smaller role that when the DPW got merged, he got something. I don't remember exactly how that was set up.
We've also had the Josh.
But he was pissed about the merge and having to do the additional job. I don't remember exactly what the specifics on that were. Do you remember, Brent?
Also,
No, I mean he came in here from Springfield, and it was after they did the transition from Bob Moylan to Paul Moosey that his role expanded quite a bit.
I'd actually like to even
But he
consider
came
not
in
only,
and worked under
baseball,
Mike
but
O'Brien
also
when he was
all,
the Parks Commissioner
contact
initially.
sports we have out there. I think it would be really important. So, if Council Rose wants to add anything, please do. But I'd really like to get this going so that we can talk about creating a program and training people and getting the AEDs in place. I think it's very important.
Okay, thank you. Also put that on next week's calendar and send it to the mayor.
Yeah.
Mayor.
Roll call. Oh, sorry, Councilor Ross.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to rise and thank Councilor Tooney for putting this on. This came up
Go
this
right up to the
weekend.
ceiling.
I was gonna say, no, that's all I can picture, Brendan.
Yeah. You gotta have the flames coming out of your shoulders.
Maybe not flames in the, but something sparks.
Just hold a couple sparklers in between your fingers.
And talked about what is the most appropriate steps.
You guys talking about old musicians? Did you see the Afro Man story from the past week?
I just saw that he dumped 16 videos out of nowhere over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, they basically the police raided one of his houses.
Yeah, that's one of the videos. Will you please fix my door?
And that's exactly it. They raided his house under the guise of kidnapping, and they didn't find anybody. And then he made a song about his security with the security footage. FBI, are you going to fix my door? And it has 1 million or 2 million plays already on Spotify.
Beautiful.
If he gets an answer to that, can he tell me? Because they owe me $4,000 when they broke down our doors to get to one of my tenants.
It's her wanting to put this under suspension.
I had a DEA raid.
That sounds like a story.
If only we had a journalist
year-old
here.
grandma who was trafficking ecstasy and something else back and forth to Puerto Rico.
Working with and all the public buildings is supposed
Hell
to
yeah.
have defibrillators, so this could be part of that. He's a
Wait,
big advocate.
Granny Brenda or whoever was here.
Wait. Hold on. I want everyone to make sure that they collect. Joe trying to say defibrillated.
Yes.
Councilor Merrill Carlson?
Yes.
Somebody clip that, please. Defibrillated.
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty?
Yes.
Oof.
Okay.
Yenni, you're trying to tell me that while Worcester was suffering a severe glut of legit MDMA, it was all in your apartment all the
I
time?
don't understand the issue.
I really hope not.
He's a
Jeez.
She was such a sweet lady.
All
And I
understand what
loved
the
her
rules and
dog.
regulations are. And, school.
2 years after that happened, there was a lost dog report.
Understand what the laws
So,
are.
I know where her son moved with the dog, but I have no idea what happened to her.
Couldn't get licensed because the state laws have changed, trying to keep updated, just so that we have a good understanding what the issue was.
Mr. Chairman, are we going to discuss that next meeting?
No, when he brings it in, it's fine. But hopefully,
Sorry?
when he brings the report in the city manager's calendar, I think
It'll
it's
be
a
on the
council.
agenda next week if I want to speak on it, right?
What's that?
That'll be on the agenda.
Yeah,
next week.
correct.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Roll call.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio? Councilor Haji?
Yes.
Councilor King?
I think I have it
Councilor
clipped,
Carlson?
Brian,
Yes.
but
Councilor
I don't know
Yan?
if you could hear it.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
What happened that you're
Councilor
clipping?
Toomey?
Yes.
I
Joe
completely
trying to
missed
say defibrillator.
Yes. And then with it's Martin Luther King weekend, we have the youth breakfast on Saturday at Worcester State University and the Main Street building. And also on Monday is the Martin Luther King breakfast at Quincy Community College, I believe. And so we'll have a nice weekend, everybody. So the motion is to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I think the
What?
executive session.
What's that?
Executive
Oh,
session.
damn.
Yeah, no, only this pesky lawsuit that's been around since
He
2013.
We are
cussed.
going to go to
The
regular
mayor
session.
cussed.
And we're going to go back to
Foul mouth,
fired.
booth, and petty.
Wow. You want to be, and you want to run again?
City
I don't
Council
think so,
convened
you
in
potty
executive
mouth.
session at the Tuesday, January 10th, 2023 meeting for the purpose of discussing
Yeah, I
litigation
am
strategy
old.
in respect to the case
Well,
of the town of Holden versus
Thursday I'll be
Department
old. I'll be
of
35 on
Conservation
Thursday.
and Recreation.
You'll be
in the
how
city of
old?
Worcester,
35.
Superior Court Department.
Steve, you're the youngest
And
person
the
here.
last
Yeah,
item of
you're
business,
definitely
so
the
we'll
youngest
go to
person on
city
screen.
council meeting, and the
By
city
over a
council will
decade on
not
this end. Jeez.
be in open session.
Why are you kicking me?
Motion to go into executive session.
She just lifted her leg to adjust herself, but the
Yes.
only thing she moved was her leg to kick my leg.
Haji?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Carlson?
Yes.
Councilor Yan?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yeah, I know.
I
In
was going
dog
to sit
years,
back
you're
in the
older than
gallery.
me.
Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Like,
Yes.
give me a look.
And Mayor Petty. So Councilor Toomey, if you want to join the executive session link.
Ah!
Wow. We got one. Oh, there she is. Look at her. Well, a really incredible first meeting of the year, everybody. I think we can all agree that we nailed it. Lying Dog nailed it the most.
Council phoned it in.
As always. Hopefully they'll all do some serious boofing over the next 7 days. We have a meeting next week, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll all boof, and we'll be back.
We should get the agenda on Thursday instead of Friday because they have the 2 business days rule.
Right. Guys, as always, make sure that you're subscribed to Bill Shaner's Substack. Listen, we got to make sure that this guy can play. That he can be playing late 90s, early 2000s covers at various bars and breweries throughout the northeastern Massachusetts. So make sure you follow billshaner.substack.com.
We want to help him do this? We want to help him not have to do this.
No, we want him playing. We want him. We want him as a working musician. I'm gonna book him to play Jason Mraz songs at Redemption Rock. I think
that would kill.
It would and kill him. So it should be good. Please listen to Parts Unknown. A lot going on in wrestling right now. Vince McMahon is back. Stephanie McMahon just resigned from the board. That's the best season of Succession yet. Is WWE right now. So make sure you're following that. Brendan, Yenni, you guys got anything to plug now? Because this show is apparently never coming back despite all my wishes and dreams.
Maybe someday, but no, not currently.
Okay.
I popped it in chat. The committee meetings are at the end of the agenda.
Beautiful.
I can help you buy or sell a house.
There's like 6 of them. I'm not reading them off.
If you're looking to buy a house, prices are very reasonable right now. So make sure you hit up Brendan. Wootney's got a ton of shows coming up, guys. On February 2nd, we have Matt Ruby coming to Ralph's. That kicks off a month and a half of really great shows that we're really excited about. So if you follow us on Instagram, go to our Eventbrite page. We got tickets available now. They are moving, so please come check out a show. We're really excited about all these shows. So we got a lot of comics that are coming in that are going to be taping specials soon. So it's two ends in Wootney comedy, but
sorry.
Don't worry about it. You guys all follow us anyway.
I'm surprised we don't have it already anyway.
I did
Nope,
have one.
wrong Travis.
There's a
Oh, that was right.
there's a few people that are actually starting to form up a group to work on getting a charter review to happen. If anyone is interested in being a serious, active organizer in that effort, please get in touch with me.
Great. Fantastic.
I have one bit of news to share with y'all. As of tonight, my stuff, I have a bunch of art for sale at the Burncoat Center for Arts and Wellness. I hung out with Brenda and Kim tonight, and they are or earlier today, rather. They're super rad. So I have a bunch of art. Yeah, definitely go check them out. They have a refillery station. So if you're upset about the amount of plastics you use, if you're upset about, how much you just toss, grab some mason jars and go get your laundry soap and all that kind of stuff from them. I think it's a cool model that we need to support.
Great. We'll be back next week. Make sure you're following us at WCT 3000, and we love you guys. Happy 2023, everybody. Let's get weird.
Have a great week.
See you next Tuesday. Somebody had to say it.